Let's see. There we go. There we go. Man. I try not to get too wild in people's chats. Shout out to Red Nation. Um, I got a little rowdy in that one, not realizing that they were doing it because Homies was gonna get interviewed by Left Reckoning, which is the Majority Report's former employee and current producer show, Matt Leck and David Gruesome. And so I was going off a little bit, and then Nick Estes started following me on Twitter, so I assume that it's all good, unless that's a warning, and I just didn't pick up on it. But man, I was Lara and her work is something that I admire so much. I've talked about this before, where my move towards the left, towards socialism, communism, Marxism, Leninism, my move towards all that was brought about my curiosity of propaganda. I was obsessed with television, right? Obsessed with it. And as I got older, I wanted to learn why I was obsessed with it and what I was being indoctrinated to through television. And so I started looking into propaganda and media. And through that, and then my own kind of like struggle with identity and all this, all that stuff. It led me to scientific socialism. So what Lara does is literally like, I don't think I could be a bigger fan of. And it's also part of the reason why I'm such a big fan of Dr. Ball. I just, you're like speaking to what led me here. You know what I mean? That you're literally speaking to that. So for me, psychic militancy was something that I was really excited for whenever Lara was on, wherever she was on. Usually, I would tap into millennials are killing capitalism. It was always great. It was always great to hear her breakdowns. And psychic militancy is like such a perfect title, man. It's such a perfect title. I actually finally was able to pick up my car yesterday, and on the way back, it was basically a 2-hour drive. We stopped by Storm Burger. If you haven't tried it, it's amazing. It's great. So we were over there and then grabbed the bite. Heavy, man. Heavy. I did the two patties with an egg. The fries are perfect. Anywho, on the drive back, I was listening to psychic militancy, and you just learn so much. And the interview that I was watching, I don't want to butcher their name. Um, an older individual. What was it? Here we go. Rabab Abdullah Hadi. A fountain of just wisdom, and it was so personal the way that the conversation was going. That I don't know. I love when people are able to mix, their revolutionary fervor, which is fueled by their personal experience, all into one. What the heck is this? Oh, here we are. So I'm a big fan. So I was trying my best not to get a little too rowdy in the chat, especially when there's not a lot of people moving the chat. You come off more chaotic. But this fool, I mean, the moment that you start excusing Grand Platinum, you either expose yourself as ignorant on the subject, or you're covering for a white supremacist war criminal. I don't think there's an in between. Choose your fighter, you know what I mean? But It's one or the other. Uh, so let me pull something up real quick that I was really excited to share with y'all. I'm glad you're here. I don't know if Dr. Ball's still streaming. Psychic militancy, whatever my criticism of this one fool, um, is always a great watch. So, I mean, personally, I'd rather be watching. That's why I'm late. I was watching both of their stuff. I don't take that personal. I'm here to bring you a little bit of the dirty, a little bit of the dirty, and those are legitimate intellectuals. Um, appreciate whoever put me on to the conversation Dr. Ball had with Cam. I believe their name is Cam. Listen to that on the way to pick up my car, and a little mixed feelings about Cam. I appreciate the sentiment. 2 years of a genocide, probably the most significant event in our lifetimes. Uh, and I would say maybe 9/11, but we were so young, and only because of not 9/11 the event itself, but the dominoes. But then you can make the yeah. I would still put the genocide of Palestinians as the most significant event for you to go for you not to be aware of liberal Zionist talking points. I can believe it's just very concerning. It is just very concerning, especially if you're conducting an interview on the subject. And from my understanding, they were proclaiming that they were encouraged to do it because they felt that they were going to be the only person to bring up the genocide. I view that as an extra burden of responsibility when you do that. If you're aware of it, it's an extra burden of responsibility. I just realized what I did. That's funny. So that's let me see if I can adjust this a little bit. Um, hold on. Hmm. How would we fix that without? Okay, no. It's gonna cut off too much. I think it'll cut off just enough. All right, all right, all right. There's just one thing I want to pull up that I was really excited to share with y'all. Start off with the nonsense first. Sorry, I'm adjusting y'all. I got heated. I know I shouldn't let things affect me like that, but I got really upset to hear somebody um on such a, in my opinion, significant platform start pushing some nonsense like that. Start pushing some Grant Plattner apologia. I don't fuck with that. So I'm a little upset. I'm trying to be cool, trying to be cool. Let me see. Okay, we're right here. Come on, bro. I should have done this before, but like I said, I got distracted. I'm a fan, so that probably encouraged it. Let me make sure I got the right link. Okay, I think I do. Yeah, I'll get this one, and then we'll go. I'm gonna have to download it real quick. I like Pixel Drain, not gonna lie. You know what's my major problem with with oh no, I did it. Okay, no. With certain sites, is it man the ad and the promotion is all like okay, I found it. I did not want that, but it's fine. We're gonna start goofing off just a little bit, and not goofing off, but let me see. Mac audio, image, slideshow, screen capture. Oh. Let's do that and that. All right. On top of everything on it, right there. Let me see here. Again, I should have done this before, y'all. My apologies. What the heck? Where'd it go? Oh, that's funny. There it is. All right. If you haven't read this, give me 1 second. I know it's chaos right now. It should be right there. Man, if you have not read this, I can't recommend it enough. I just started reading this, so we're gonna go right there. I'm gonna do this. Perfect. We figured it out. Appreciate the patience, chat. So I just got this big boy. I don't do compendiums. I had one rule when collected comics: no compendiums, because I don't like that the spine is just not as durable as hardcover books. It just isn't. Objectively, it just isn't. Could be wrong. And honestly, I got really encouraged. I've seen a lot of cool panels online, and I was like, all right, fuck it, let's do it. Honestly, other than like Bitter Root, I don't really have a lot of Spawn comics either. Definitely not a lot of black characters or black creators. So I was like, yeah, what the fuck? Like, let me grab these compendiums. And I start reading. The compendium has a lot of these, first issues. So I start reading. Oh, man, I hate the way this thing moves. It's so bad. Hold on. I cannot stand this app. I normally do not use it on the laptop. Hold on. My apologies. Hold on. This is pissing me off. It is what it is. There we go. All right. So, just reading this was so freaking good, man. When I was a kid, I used to have this parakeet. And sometimes, when I'd open his cage to clean it, he'd escape. Mind you, my eyesight's horrible. The little bird would see the backyard and make his move. Invariably, he head straight for the window as fast as he could. And inevitably crack his head on the window. The barrier of glass, unseen and compromisable to him. Uncomprehensible. I need to really log into to see the words. I didn't think it was gonna be this much of an issue for me. My bad. I have horrible eyesight. So yeah, the barrier of glass, unseen and incomprehensible to him. So he tried again, over and over, until spent and defeated, he couldn't try any longer. My bird made a common error. He mistook being out of his cage for being free. And I was already hooked. I'm like, bro, whatever else follows this, I'm in it. I'm a fan. I'm all the way through. Damn. The parakeet died a long time ago, and without ever enjoying the freedom of the yard. The boy grew up to be a man. who spent many years bumping his head against a similar barrier, a ceiling of glass unseen and incomprehensible to him. The lesson is clear. What is this? Escape is impossible until one perceives all of the barriers. My name is Curtis Metcalf, but you can call me Hardware. My apologies for butchering that. Like, I didn't realize how much I had to strain my eyesight to see that, and I'm trying really hard not to squint or ruin the whole image. But man, check it out, Hardware, if you haven't. I knew nothing of it. All right, let's refocus. I also felt like I needed to pull that up to distract myself from how upset I got. I'm a hothead, bro. Like, I'm telling y'all right now, I have a short temper. I'm a hothead. I've gotten a whole lot better. But if you ask people that know me, the better is not enough. It's not sufficient. So yeah. Let's see here. Oh, did he? I didn't know that about Rob. All right. Let's refocus. Man, you nerds. I mean, if that's the case, I would love to reach out to Rob and talk about that. That sounds dope. All right, let's get to it. Look at this nonsense, bro. Look at this nonsense. This is who we call allies? Disgusting.
Chest, never obey. And I want to say something with my full chest. Never obey in advance. Fuck ICE, fuck Donald Trump, free Palestine, and save trans kids. And I want to say something with my full chest.
With her full chest. Jennifer Welch. After winning a GLAAD award last night, I want to say something with my full chest. Never obey in advance. Fuck ICE, fuck Donald Trump, free Palestine, and save trans kids. This was just a few months ago. Who are they introducing, y'all? Who are they introducing? The one, the only.
Kamala Harris.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I am now officially the Democratic nominee. This campaign is going to be
Might not be able to listen to the songs, y'all. My apologies. Look at this. Free Palestine. Free Palestine. This was 5 months ago. Free Palestine. Free Palestine, y'all. Helping to whitewash this genocidal war criminal in Kamala Harris. Fucking disgusting. This is why you can't believe fucking white people, bro. This is why you can't believe white allies. This right here is why. This is fucking despicable. She is a disingenuous person. She is obsessed with the attention, the limelight, the praise of being one of the good whites, Remember what she said, that she wants to be a cookout approved white. How does that even cross your fucking head? Unless you're just invested in performance. Cookout approved white is what she wants to be perceived as. So that she can get these awards and these praises for what? Who fucking knows? I don't know what GLAAD is. I don't know why she got this award. What I will say is she's consistently flirting with homophobia when she's trying to like drag or, you know, roast Donald Trump, JD Vance, and these right wingers. Consistently playing with homophobia in order to crack a joke. So it makes sense that, yeah, apparently these are the white moms of Hassan Piker, who's consistently referring to his genitalia and talking about fucking oral this and oral that as an insult. Again, rooted in homophobia. That's usually his go-to when it isn't outright sexism. So it makes sense that these people align. It makes sense that these people have each other's back. It makes perfect sense. Look, when we talk about like even individuals like Adam Freeland, right? We'll do this real quick to show you how interconnected it all is. Well, actually, no. That video where Hassan Piker was talking to, let me do something real quick. To Gavin Newsom. Let's see. Directly to him, right? Begging him. This one right here. He talks about Adam Freeland.
You know, let's have a really interesting for. I've paid a lot, a good amount of someone now pivoting. Need to keep still in here. Okay, the broadcast. You just did the Adam Freeland show.
You just did the Adam Freeland show, right?
Show. Many people call that the Millennial. Gavin, come to the broadcast. You just did the Adam Freeland show.
Hassan Piker and Adam Freeland are good friends. I'll show you. Not only does he cover his content, not only has he been, pretty sure Hassan at this point has been on. Yeah, he's been on. But Adam Freeland has been on Hassan's stream a few times as well. I mean, it's all being drowned out by, oh, that's hilarious. And of course, the Majority Report covers him in a positive light. So with that in mind, here we go. Here they are. They're right here, cozied up. For those of you who don't know, Adam Freeland got his start from a podcast called Come Town.
Gonna say on the third debate, he's gonna just.
Well,
he
the
might
third
say
debate
verbatim.
is Fox News. I didn't realize.
He might say verbatim. Is it? That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, that's to his advantage. It's
Of
got to
course.
be.
You think he? What's the wildest shit you think he'll
They're talking about what is the wildest thing that Donald Trump can say.
say? You think he'll say Bill Clinton is
He's
a
going to
rapist?
say
Jesus.
That's the last thing that's left.
You think he will? No, he could call. He could say
Hold on.
cunt.
First of all, let's take a second. That is the first time the hard R
That was super.
on this show.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the
That's the
last
se-
thing
and
that he
also
has
that's
left
the
to say.
That also violates the rules
It's
that
a
I
pre-
set forth for when you can say the N-word on this show.
If
When
it's
are
a
they?
quote,
I think I might have to do like a short video on this at some point, because Hassan Piker claimed that he stopped being friends with Destiny, the creep, because of his usage of the N-word. And obviously that's not the case if he's buddies with Adam Freeland. Clearly that's not the case. Adam Friedland said that. Where is it? This guy, Adam Friedland.
How old are you?
I'm 32.
I'm 36. Yeah, I
The
mean,
same guy. The same guy that he's cozying up with. The same guy that he's saying, oh yeah, you and Gavin Newsom had a whole ass conversation. Right? Same guy. These are all pals, buddies, industry friends. Understand that. I'm a real fucking hater, bro. Linstag, I'm a real devoted hater. And my hatred doesn't just come out of the abyss. It doesn't come out of nowhere. It's because I'm like, all right, let me give these guys a chance. Let me watch them. Let me listen to their stuff. And sure enough, if you hang around long enough with these, libs, if you just watch them long enough, listen, if you're patient enough, they show you who they fucking are. They show you who they are. And they're just fucking hypocrites. They're absolute fucking hypocrites. Let me see if I can find this to demonstrate what I'm talking about. Let's see. It's probably going to be on my page. I'm not going to lie to you. Let's see. I just generally don't know if I actually posted this or if I have it saved in somebody's, if I put it in somebody's replies or something like that. But it was Hassan in an old, clip with TYT saying why it's okay to say the N-word.
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
Right? Yeah, it's not going to be on my account. Let's see here. Maybe on the replies, but that'll be a tough one, not going to lie. Harutu, thank you for the super chat. Let's see. And just find this in general. See, there's the collections of him saying it. But the excuse that they use is, oh, no, I was quoting something. So you have to understand what their excuses are. To be like, all right, that one's not, they're going to deflect. Oh, he was quoting something. He was quoting something using the N-word. That's not what I'm interested in, right? Because that gives them an out. What I'm interested in is when he says, is it going to be this dumbass account that I actually don't like, but, oh, no. I know what it is. Here we go. All right, I know the account. I'm ashamed, but it is what it is. Here it is. Here it is. That's him being a weirdo, but not that. So remember, y'all, he claimed that he stopped talking to Destiny, the creep streamer, because of his private usage of the N-word. Destiny came out and said, hey, if you use the N-word privately, it's not a big deal as long as you don't use it publicly. Because you don't know, people are going to know whether you're joking or whether you're actually a racist. Yada, all the excuses white people give, white liberals especially. Hassan Piker used that opportunity to say, oh, yeah, I'm not cool with people like that. I can't be friends with people like that. And he weaponized, anti-blackness. And why did I say he weaponized it? Because the reality was that he was looking for an excuse to stop being friends with Destiny so he would no longer have to debate him. And that was the reason. It wasn't any legitimate concern for anti-blackness. It was looking for an excuse to no longer have to interact with Destiny and be called out on his lies. We've seen how Hassan Piker lies. You don't have to be to his left to realize that he's a consistent liar. He just didn't want to have to confront Destiny and be called out on his BS, especially because Destiny's somebody to his right. All right, I found it. Here it is.
A girl at Kansas State University has been expelled from the school following a Snapchat that she posted that people are saying is racist. Had the caption, "Feels good to finally be a insert word there. Someone took a screenshot and posted it to Twitter. The user said, "But I'm supposed to walk into my classes feeling completely comfortable with people on our campus who think like this," with the image right there.
I do get very sensitive about stories that are like stories of people that do something in private, and like a private correspondence between them and their friends, and then someone blows it up and puts it on Twitter, and then that person's life is ruined.
To have this position is because you're afraid that your text messages, that your private conversations where you're using the N-word is going to come out. You only have this position because you're trying to cover your ass. That's why.
Are like stories of people that do something in private, and like a private correspondence between them and their friends, and then someone blows it up and puts it on Twitter, and then that person's life is ruined. It's sensitive. Like, I feel like she didn't, like, I think people, I hate that people have racist thoughts, but if people want to be racist in the privacy of their own social media circle, and specifically Snapchat is one that is meant to be, intended to be private.
This will love Snapchat, by the way. He's always like recruiting and encouraging women to send him lewd content. The moment that men started doing it, because he was trying to be coy about it, he started crying about it.
As you know, unlike Twitter, which is way more public, like, they have every right to be.
Yeah. How do you like that logic? They have every right to be. And then you just go to YouTube. Look, this is all fucking lore, unfortunately, that I know. Let's see. Hassan. Destiny. Yeah, we'll go with the drama, maybe. A lot of wild stuff. Destiny is a creep, not advocating for him. How about not drama? How about here you go.
Destiny himself is like, not like, he's not anti-using like actual fucking slurs that are considered fucked up, for the record. So I just want you to know that, like, he is absolutely fucking just engaging in this just to be like, come on, dude. I'm just trying to claw into that fucking relevance, okay?
Suddenly his position changes when he could weaponize that against somebody that is beating him at these idiotic debates. So understand, they weaponize all these things to their convenience. They don't believe in anything. They don't believe in anything.
A black Twitch streamer for saying the N-word, that would be ridiculous.
Here's a bet that I'll make, and who the fuck knows, I could be wrong, but I'm willing to bet that if one black streamer said to another black streamer, "You are an N-word," I think he'd probably get banned. That's my guess, but we've
that's not the one I'm looking for. Again, I'm not here to defend Destiny whatsoever. I'm here to highlight the hypocrisy and the weaponization of anti-blackness that Hassan Piker carries out in order to paint himself as a hero. Right? The reason why he actually used that was to no longer have to interact with Destiny after he took the clout that he needed from him. Right? Because he took the leftist part of Destiny's audience with him. That's what it was. It was never about whether or not Destiny uses the N-word privately. Destiny came out and said, yeah, I use it privately. And I think if you're making a joke in private, you should be okay to use it, this and that. Utter bullshit. We all recognize that. But Hassan Piker was cool with that, and I wouldn't be surprised if they were using the N-word privately as well together. Hassan seems smart enough not to do it through text. But there's enough evidence to say he's probably doing it verbally. Or else why would you have that position? So concerned about people's privacy and their hidden racism. So again, all this connecting to Adam Friedland using the N-word, demonstrates that Hassan Piker doesn't give a fuck whether you use it or not. Adam Freeland's was publicly being used on a podcast. So why would he be so concerned about Destiny using it or admitting to using it privately? It makes no logical sense. There's no consistency because Adam Freeland is able to provide Hassan Piker with clout. That's why he doesn't suddenly care. He didn't care back in the TYT days. In fact, he was worried about it because his shit might leak. And then a few years go by, and then suddenly he cares about it with Destiny after they have a falling out. A few years go by, doesn't give a fuck about it with Adam Freeland. See why I hate these fucking people? You could say free Palestine 5 months after you help whitewash the genocidal vice president under Genocide Joe, Holocaust Harris. These are unprincipled opportunists, solely concerned with their career, the type of attention and clout they can gain, as well as the financial aspect. But the worst part is that these people are already wealthy. They're already rich. So they simply want the clout. That was in the past. People can change. In 5 months, she was radicalized. But that's the best part about Hassan Piker yapping for so long, is that you can see how he flip-flops depending on the situation and what he needs, what he can get out of somebody. Wasn't even meant to talk about this. All right, let's get to it. I do want to shout out this great episode by the Red Nation. Really enjoyed it. I think we're going to skim through this because I spent a lot of time on this previous little hater. But we weren't going to watch it because it just dropped also. It just dropped. But I think it's such an important conversation to be had. Let's start off at the 6 minutes. I think we're just going to watch like 6 minutes of it.
It's 877 cars for kids.
That's later.
Super fun to do it.
I can understand it. You know, as somebody who gets interviewed by the media a lot, what are the sort of common misconceptions or distortions of these issues?
Of pretendianism, quote unquote, in general. You mean?
So the topic of conversation, the reason why I encourage everyone to watch this is because they're breaking down the concern and issue with the pretend Indian problem. Tallbearer is notorious for helping lead this charge and exposing pretend Indians and why it's an issue, why it's a concern. All credit to them. I think it's a valuable thing. The reason why this, I needed to bring a spotlight to this. It has 4,000 views. Let's get those views up there. Let's help them out. Let's hit the like button over there. My bad. I did watch it while I was in the car, so that's my excuse. Because of the issue that Chicanos, Mexican Americans, have with this pretend Indian problem as well. It's something that I kind of like, you kind of go through that stuff when you're embracing like Chicanismo, right? Indigenismo, the pretend Indian of like, you're trying to force connect roots that aren't necessarily there. That's why I'm like, hey, I'm just a bastard of colonization. Y'all need to get comfortable with that unfortunate reality, but a reality nonetheless. We're essentially mestizos, if you want to use those colonial terms, that have predominantly aligned with Spaniards, with colonizers, for our own benefit. Sometimes we've been used, and that you could use the excuse that we were ignorant. Sure, that's fine. But a lot of us made conscious decisions to align with whiteness, with the Spaniards. And suddenly, we read a few books, we take a fucking Chicano intro class, whatever it is, and you want to erase all the anti-Indigenous ideology that you embrace, that you perpetrated, and suddenly you want to call yourself native. It's a bit of an awkward thing to get past, but you need to get past it. In fact, you should avoid it completely if you can, because it's erasure of indigenous people that are still very much alive.
The way that people misperceive the problem. Yeah, I think, there's so much to talk about here. I think there's been a lot of defensiveness of people that do this, not only by non-Indigenous people, but even by legitimate Indigenous people. The sense that, well, this is honoring us. And especially, I think, older people or people who didn't grow up in Indian country. Those are two different things, but I say that they might tend to be disproportionately defending self-indigenizers, because for older people, they grew up in an era where it was dangerous to be an Indian, right? Dangerous. And the racism was explicit and violent. And it still is like that in some parts of North America, but not everywhere. And so for them, for anybody, when I was a little kid and growing up in Flanders, South Dakota, white people didn't want to be Indians. This was not a thing, And so that's what these older people remember. They remember the violence. So, this is if they don't hate us, they want to be us. They look up to us. And then I think you have a lot of non-Indigenous people or people with Indigenous ancestry who grew up away from community, who have who kind of romanticize it and think this is a good thing. And this is multicultural inclusion. And this is welcoming. They're not, I think, what we try to be clear about, those of us who work on this issue, is that this is yet another form of colonial appropriation.
Look, there's a reason why I don't really cover, a lot of podcasts, a lot of shows that I'm a fan of, is because I'm a fan. Like, there's not much I can contribute, or at least I haven't obtained that skill yet, or the knowledge required to really build upon what is being said, because I'm more focused on listening and trying to receive the information, process it, and actually carry it out, like actually change the way that I think and behave, in order to say, I didn't just hear it. It's not just entertainment. It's something that's altering my reality and the way that I interact with reality, right? So with that in mind, that's why I hesitate to show a lot of this stuff, especially this dropped, I believe, yesterday or 2 days ago. Please go check it out in its entirety. Please check it out in its entirety. But there's members of all communities that give leeway to white people, right? And I think that's why I combat a lot of this that we see with white men, whether it's the Vanguard, Hassan Piker, Grant Plattner, where it's this perpetual infantilization of white men. So you dismiss their threat, you dismiss the danger and the harm that they inflict upon everyone around them. Well, boys will be boys. That whole fucking bullshit is reserved exclusively for white men, right? So this whole idea that it's harmless, no, it's just another form of colonization, right? I already stole your land, I already stole your children, I already stole your women, and I say your women not in the ownership aspect, so machista shit. I'm saying, the women within your community, I took them by force, right? Now I'm going to take your identity. Fucking skinwalkers. Now I will actually steal your essence, your being. Of course, what I perceive it to be, a bastardized Hollywood version of it, a caricature that I will manipulate, either doing red face and fucking mocking you, or pretending that I'm honoring it in some way because I allegedly have an ancestor that is indigenous. So I've been told. It is this personal act of colonization. They talk about Elizabeth Warren. I'm saying watch it in its entirety. It's an amazing conversation. They're going to have a symposium. There you go. I don't think they provide the dates, which is unfortunate. The Minneapolis traditional Dakota people. Because because I thought about moving my vacation to line up with that, and just head out there and just catch as many of the lectures that I could. That would have been dope, but I forgot to look up the actual dates. Kind of sounds like it's right around the corner though.
Cultural inclusion, and this is welcoming. They're not, I think, what we try to be clear about, those of us who work on this issue, is that this is yet another form of colonial appropriation, right? There's the narrative, they do so much good, but they do so much good, you know. But what was your original question?
I was just like the media misperceptions.
Yeah.
Because,
well, the first question I get from reporters is, well, really, what harm do they cause?
Right.
That's immediately where they go to. What are the harms? And this symposium, we're going to have a panel with people testifying on what the harms are. The harms are many, and things you wouldn't even think of unless you're directly in a situation. So.
Yeah, and
there's like just 2 more sections that I wanted to cover. Again, please go watch this in its entirety. We're just going over like just a few minutes. I think there's one at 9:30.
Phenomenon.
One of the main defenses that people have, both, I think, self-indigenizers or quote unquote pretendians and those who defend them, one of their main defenses, in addition to they do so much good, is you have more important things to worry about. Why are you wasting your time on this? I had an Indigenous woman back in 2017, I think, when I was commenting on the Joseph Boyden case, get after me all over social media because I didn't work on missing and murdered Indigenous women. And I said, well, there's a lot of people working on that. That's not what I work on. I work on what I work on. You work on what you work on. It takes all of us to push back, because settler colonial theft is relentless. They are on all fronts attempting to steal everything. And so ranking this below these other issues is a misunderstanding that they're all entangled, right? They appropriated our land, right? They have taken our children. And our children, they didn't only take them to forcibly re-educate them and convert them to Christianity, they took them in order to extract their labor. You know, they were basically indentured, they're like servants, you know, to white people.
I remember learning in high school about Andrew Jackson adopting an Indigenous child, and it was glorified. I was like, oh, wasn't that great? At least in the book. And actually, this was probably like 7th grade, because I specifically remember this teacher because he was one of the few Asian teachers that I had, but I believe he was like half white, half what was he? I think he was Okinawan. Anywho, I think maybe that's the only reason why he's like, oh, by the way, yeah, like your book says he adopted him, this and that. Like he basically treated him like his personal slave. Like he'd make him work and do all the, he'd just make him work, do everything that he needed. So like, don't think that it's simply ends where the book ends. And this, it wasn't like this guy was some leftist or anything like that. Like, no, this guy was like Oakley glasses, shorts, and like, you know, big baseball fan, like very, very whitewashed in the way that he carried himself, presented himself, and all that. So again, this wasn't a radical kind of revealing or acting like he was revealing a great truth about Europeans and colonization. But I think simply being like having some culture outside of whiteness was enough to be like, oh, by the way, this is bullshit. The way it's being presented is bullshit.
They were trying to change their minds. They were ripping them away from their families because they knew if they took the children, that would help eliminate the community and the nations, right? They took the minerals beneath.
Why? Because then when they grow older, they don't have a culture to pass down. They don't have a culture. They don't have the knowledge. They don't have the language to pass down. There's multiple ways of exterminating a people. That is only one of them.
that would help eliminate the community and the nations, right? They took the minerals beneath the lands. Once they discovered that they didn't put us onto wastelands, but our reservations were actually in places where there was a tremendous amount of exploitable wealth.
Again, we're going to put you what we think is a wasteland, the middle of nowhere, where hopefully you cannot provide for yourselves, where hopefully you cannot grow food and obtain resources. So then we can say, hey, we didn't kill them off. We just removed them because there was too much conflict, and we put them over there, allowed them to be sovereign and to rule themselves, and they just didn't make it. They couldn't fend for themselves. Which again, remember, these disgusting, backward, unwashed, fucking dirty ass Europeans came through and needed the salvation, needed to be saved by the indigenous people here because they didn't know how to do shit. Right? So that's how psychotic these individuals are. That's how psychotic and demented they are. To be like, all right, fend for yourselves. Indigenous people did. And then what happens? Oh, where we put you wasn't actually worthless, destitute land. There's something valuable there. Now we got to steal that from you too. What we thought was an open air concentration camp, yeah, it turns out that's valuable. So now we're going to push you off of that as well. It's always consume, consume, conquer, and conquer. Nothing is ever enough for them. Nothing is ever enough for them.
Then they took that, right? So they're always looking for new things to take in order to improve their lives and build their wealth and to help them build a sense of belonging and ownership in this place. Because I think settlers know, this is why they're so defensive, they don't have any moral claim.
Mm-hmm.
They feel a legal claim because might makes right, but they've also violated all of their own laws. And so this is just one more.
Treaties are supposed to be like the top thing. The treaties with indigenous people and the U.S. government should overrule everything else, and they consistently break them. Consistently break them. It is evident, it is proven through their actions that you cannot negotiate with colonizers. You cannot negotiate in good faith with colonizers. They will betray you every single time. If you use these treaties, these negotiations to allow yourself the time and space to prepare for the eventual betrayal, I can support that. But if you're going in thinking that they're actually going to uphold their end, you're lost. You're lost. Look at Iran right now. Look at Iran right now. They make a nuclear deal with Obama. Doesn't mean fucking shit. Doesn't mean shit. But again, the US is not just a global superpower, but the one dictating what the fucking rules of the land are. And they consistently break them. Because everything is to their benefit. Everything is to their benefit. It's what helps and aids them every single fucking
I voted
time.
for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
Again, please watch this in its entirety. They talk about, how prevalent this is in academia and how academies, institutions, universities turn a blind eye to it because they're like, hey, if it looks like we have 100 indigenous students, that looks great on us. We're not going to dig any further into it. Let's allow these white kids, these Europeans, to steal the resources that should be going to indigenous children, the indigenous youth, indigenous students. Let's go ahead and allow them to steal that shit too, because it makes the universities look good. Why would they solely have 10 legitimate indigenous students when they could have 100? Now they could put those statistics on the report.
form of appropriation. They have worked as hard as they could to eliminate most of us, but they still, as Philip Deloria showed in his book Playing Indian, they still need us to be alive, at least symbolically, or a little bit alive, so we can teach them or kind of invest them with this notion of aboriginality. They need to make a moral claim, right? Not only a claim of might makes right, but a moral claim. And pretending to be us, turning into us, putting on all of our accoutrements, that helps them do that. And so
Thank you. They used to do this to black people in lynchings. They would take body parts and ship them out in celebration, hold them as ornaments. They also did this with Indigenous people. They would put them on their attire. Understand that these are psychotic individuals. Psychotic individuals. So that isn't enough for them. It is not enough for them to physically have your body parts. It's not enough. They need to steal your identity as well. They need to, literally physically wearing your skin is insufficient to their demonic way of living and interacting with the world. They need to take your identity as well. And you expect us to live alongside these people. You expect us to organize with these people. You expect us to build what with them? To aid them in constructing a better world that they will eliminate us from? How? I struggle to even ask the question, like, how do you word this? When a demon like this, when something such a demonic creature has carried out all these horrors and atrocities, what more do you need them to do until you understand that they're the enemy? Until you understand that they cannot be trusted. What more do they need to do? We've seen it with the liberals of today. They will excuse a genocide. They will cry on screen about a genocide and turn right around and say, vote for the people carrying it out. So it's either we vilify the people carrying out the genocide, the boots on the ground, the drone operators, understand their complicity, and are we supposed to glorify or forget or excuse, align with the liberals that downplay that when it matters the most? It's all interconnected. These are all invaders, invasive fucking species trying to conquer land and destroy the indigenous population. Let's stop pretending that we're not part of the fucking animal kingdom. Stop with this glorification of what we are. All right? The first one to tell you I'm a bad atheist. But can we actually just, for 1 second, look at this for what it is? An invasive species. And we need to provide them a natural predator. That's all I'm saying. When you have an invasive species, what do you have to do, y'all? How do you solve the problem of an invasive species?
turning into us, putting on all of our accoutrements, that helps them do that. And so this is why this is not something to be ranked below. We should understand this as yet another weapon of theirs to gain what they can't gain through other means that might be more obviously violent. But this is a form of violence because it's a form of stealing every last thing.
Yeah. I think this often gets framed as like a victimless crime, like in the sense that, this was a story that I was told. And, this is oftentimes it comes from a place of injury or loss, right? And
I think it is, again, the reason why it irritates me how ignorance is weaponized, because it's one of their greatest tools. I didn't know. I was told this. This is what the family's been saying. But they don't bother to do the work, the research, before they lay claim to an identity that isn't theirs. In fact, an identity that they try to destroy and then take. I mean, these are monsters. You have to understand, these are fucking monsters. To say, not only will I exterminate you, but then I will steal your identity and lay claim to it. And then when they're called out, well, my family said, well, what research did you do? You cared enough to take it as your own, but not enough to look into it? Because it's for your fucking convenience. It benefits you not to look into it, to be fucking ignorant, because you could use it as a shield. We've seen it with Grand Planner. Oh, I'm a history buff. I'm a history buff. Since I was a kid, I was obsessed with the military. I've been anti-fascist my whole life. Hey, you have a Nazi symbol, an SS Totenkopf death skull on your chest. And how many fucking white liberals haven't we heard say, I didn't know what that was. I've never heard of it. Every single one of them. And these are political commentators. Grant Planner is a history buff. They use ignorance as a shield. They weaponize everything and anything. And what they're saying is, hey, I'm too fucking stupid to know better. That's what they're saying. And so they could swing their fucking clubs. I'm just too fucking stupid. That's exactly their excuse. When you try and hold them accountable to their actions, to their words, that is always their go-to. I didn't know. But we have to know it all. We have to know how to live in their fucking society. We have to know how to interact with them in order to stay alive. We have to know all that shit. We have to know their fucking history and the way that they fucking wrote it. And then guess what? In order to survive, we have to learn the real history. So we got to do it all. We got to know it all. What do they have? What do they have to do? Fucking nothing. Everything is catered to them. Their backwardness, their savagery, their ignorance. And it's never enough. And it's never enough.
I know, I know we know some people who write on that particular subject, the kind of pathologization, the traumatization of an Indigenous identity. How do those kind of narratives obscure, like especially like the family stories? 'Cause it's often an intimate thing. How do you disprove what somebody claims as their personal knowledge or their family lore?
I'm telling y'all, you have to watch this in its entirety. It is an hour and 10 minutes of just fundamental knowledge that you need. You need this. And it shouldn't only be because you want to, hate on these fucking colonizers. It should also be to educate yourself and understand how it affects Indigenous people. These motherfuckers are worse than vampires. At least vampires are courteous enough to be like, you gotta invite me in. These motherfuckers force their way in. There's just one section that I thought was very literally almost an hour later, but connecting to the question that was just raised, that I found really moving. Because, you know, Tallbear kind of really demonstrates that this is more than just an academic pursuit, if you wanted to view it that way, and how personal it can get. Because again, these are infiltrators. They're infiltrating your communities. They're taking your identity. I mean, this is what sci-fi horror movies are based upon. The fucking Thing. And these are the people running the settler colonial empire. They're obsessed with fucking aliens, bro. The grays, the round eyes, the lizard people running the government, Hollow Earth, all this shit. The dark side of the moon. Because their greatest fear is that they're going to run into monsters just like them. That's their greatest fear. That somebody's going to show up and show them up.
And that's the person closest to me that this has happened to. And so I kind of thought I was dead. Cersei Sturm last winter, the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds, or TAF report that came out on Cersei Sturm last winter. Cersei was one of my closest friends.
Can you imagine? And these are small circles. Understand this. Nick Estes talks about, I don't know him like that. We're not at first name basis. He talks about graduating. You have to listen to this in its entirety. It is so moving. He talks about going to a high school with only 4% of Indigenous students graduate, and that he was that 4%. And this will, this follows Indigenous people all through academia. So imagine building this close bond and this relationship, this friendship with somebody who's a fucking fraud, who is wearing the skin, bro. I have not seen The Walking Dead, but I've seen enough clips. These motherfuckers put on, fake zombie skin on top of it, or real zombie skin. They put that shit on. Understand. What is this? Zombie, what would you do that? Face, I guess. What do you call that when they're hiding amongst them? Is this it? There's a person underneath that. You can see right here how Talo. You can see his beard sticking out. Why would a zombie have a beard? This is what Europeans do. Imagine being tricked by one of these into thinking that it's a real fucking person. Imagine how psychotic you have to be to carry out that lie, to build bond, to create loving moments, to use Indigenous people and their identity as camouflage. Again, all for their benefit. All for their benefit. All to move through academia more efficiently. All to gain praise by being part of a marginalized group. To take and take and take resources and opportunities from real Indigenous people. Because it's not enough. The land wasn't enough. The extermination wasn't enough. They always want more. This shit is fucking heartbreaking. To find out that the person that you care for, that you love, is one of the fucking frauds that you've been hunting down? An infiltrator?
She's, do you know? Yeah, and she didn't like that. And then I had, and then the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds, or TAF, report that came out on Cersei Sturm last winter. Cersei was one of my closest friends. And that's the person closest to me that this has happened to. And so I kind of thought I was dead inside about this issue, like emotionally dead inside, just purely analytical about it until that case. And then I suddenly understood because I thought when other people said it's embarrassing, it's hurtful, I was like,
because Cersei Sturm wrote about this.
Yeah, she did. And so
you know how sick and twisted that is. To know that you're a fucking fraud and write about other frauds. Do you know what you have to do to put pen to paper, to type away your fucking keyboard? Do you know, like, the mental space that you have to be to completely remove yourself from your own reality? To be like, oh yeah, I'm going to write a paper on this. And it's about fucking you. It's about what you're doing. I mean, I guess in a way, you couldn't ask for a better fucking expert, right? She doesn't need to get into the mind of a pretend Indian. She is a pretend Indian. She's already fucking there. All right. I guess there's that angle if you want to take that approach to it. And it is abusive. Understand, it is fucking abusive. Watch the entirety of this. This conversation is so fucking important and so vital. Watch it, because they talk about it being a form of abuse. It absolutely fucking is. It absolutely is abuse. You have to be a predator to act this way. When we talk about camouflage, when we're talking about we're just part of the animal kingdom, this is a fucking predator trying to mimic you, trying to mimic your culture, your identity, your essence, your being. In order to what? To be a fucking parasite.
So I thought for people, like, get a thicker skin, but then when somebody that close to me, when that happened, I understood, like, it's a lot to deal with on a personal and emotional level. But yeah, Cersei wrote a book that's widely cited called Becoming Indian, something like being Cherokee in the 21st century or something. It's a 2011 book, widely cited, and she used that term race shifting that became so kind of popular in this discussion. And then the Tribal Alliance Against Frauds did a report on her genealogy, and it's a pretty typical report, and the kinds of ways she claimed to be Choctaw in particular, very kind of typical kind of family mythology. And so yeah, I had to deal with that on a personal level. And there's many stories behind the scenes, not just my own relationship with her, but students that she had recruited that are also self-indigenizers. See, this is the thing. It's not just their own case.
Bro, this is some sci-fi shit. It's like they're reproducing. It's like they're reproducing. It is a fucking invasion of the body snatchers. And they're bringing more in. You see this in the animal kingdom. What are those birds that will knock out? You know what I'm talking about? Those fucking birds. Let's see. Who knows the name? Chat, help me out. Bird. Let's see. Yeah, raise their young. This shit right here, bro. Why all this? Just get to what I'm asking, bro.
Than that of the chicks of the actual nest. It gets really big, and it's like adaptation is to like kick. Even before it can open its eyes, it's kicking. And
before it can open its eyes. Before it can open its eyes, bro. Europeans are taught by their parents before they can open their eyes and do their own research. No, yeah, you had an indigenous ancestor. No, yeah, we had a great, it's always a fucking native princess. Or, which is sick, and again, please listen to the entirety of this. If it's not that, they're smearing indigenous men as abusers, as drunks, as missing, right? Like, oh, they just never showed up. They fucking make up indigenous men to smear, to spread racist stereotypes about them. It's never enough. And when they're old enough to open their eyes and to do their own research, well, shit, they look around the nest and they're like, I've already benefited so much. Why stop now?
There's other people they promote, right? And so then you've got to disentangle yourself from all of that. And you've invested in those people.
And there's another layer.
And you've invested in those people. All the work to help build up who you perceive are other indigenous people. You think that they've struggled the way you struggled, that they've been marginalized the way you've been marginalized, neglected the way you've been neglected. And you're proud to see them following your footsteps in this academic venture or anywhere really. And so you want to help them out. You want to help them out because somebody might have helped you, or maybe they didn't help you and you could have used that help. And so you pour your personal resources, your time into these individuals. You create bonds with them. You guide them. For what? For them to turn out and be these fucking frauds. To be an invasive fucking species in your space. And because of the numbers, real indigenous people might be outnumbered in these spaces, surrounded by a fucking horde of imposters. If that's not a fucking horror movie, I don't know what is. But it's fucking reality. It's a little different in Mexico. It's a little bit different in Mexico. It's a little bit more kind of like we're all mixed. La raza cósmica, this whole concept of like, no, we're all a little indigenous. Some people cling on to their Spanish identity a little bit harder to try and be, snobs and elitists and racist overall. But no, we're all mixed. We all have some indigenous, and they use it as an excuse to be anti-indigenous. I'm
afraid of like talking to people who are outside of my race.
If you haven't already, go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell if you want to know when I go live. That's Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Super chats and super stickers are turned on. The Patreon is up and running. $2 gets you access to a Discord. The Cash App is up because it was out, it was asked for it. So there it is. I appreciate all and any support. Sincerely, got the car back, and it's just, man, it is such a relief. So I sincerely, once again, thank you for all the help, all the support. And I understand times are tough. So do me a favor, get busy in the chat, homies. Don't be scared. I know we got Yipper in the chat today. Yipper's a little rowdy, but it's all right. Oh, man. Pancho, saludos, Pancho. Hope you're doing well. But please, I'll drop it in the chat. Subscribe to the Red Nation. Especially this conversation is so valuable, so useful. Just truly essential. Let me see here. That was definitely the last bit of it. Where are we at? Where are we at? Just a little update. So usually I do thumbnails for the streams. That's not going to be a thing anymore. So moving forward, no more unique thumbnails for every live stream. The thumbnails and the time that I take to make them are going to be used for the short clips that I'll be pulling out from the live streams and putting on the Deculturation live channel, just to make it more accessible for people that can't do, 3-hour streams. We're really not going to do the 6-hour stuff anymore. I just can't afford to do that while I'm trying to make edited videos. So I appreciate the understanding. I like making the thumbnails. I'll keep making thumbnails. I'll probably be making more thumbnails because I have to make them unique to every clip. But just, overall, slight changes, but it's all good. Let me leave y'all with this for a quick moment, and then we'll keep pushing forward. Yeah, this will be fun. Yeah. All right, we'll do that. Again, go check that conversation out. We just went over a few minutes of it. It's an hour long. Why this show? We did not do it justice. All right, I'll leave y'all with this and I'll be right back. I appreciate you. Likes. $370,000 views. How nice. How convenient. All right. So Sam Cedar has his daughter write questions for him. Great. Amazing. Please donate to the Majority Report. They deserve every penny. The widest show in the East Coast. All right.
She wants to know, and I think sort of these two questions sort of address that whole dynamic. One is if you feel abandoned by the Democratic Party, and how so if you do, but also she wants to know, how do you grapple with having to appeal to multiple different ideological groups within the Democratic Party and your constituency?
Yeah.
Just real quick. Notice how both of the questions that Sam Cedar's daughter is qualified enough to ask Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez, paint her as the victim. Paint AOC as the victim here. Do you feel betrayed? Is it difficult having to deliver for different groups in the Democratic Party? Mind you, when she was bidding for this position, when she was campaigning for it, do you know what she did? She was putting out there, her and her team were putting out there to the rest of the Democratic Party, hey, we will stop endorsing Democrat challengers to incumbents, to those already in position of power. Anyone trying to come up the way that I did, Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez, toppling an established Democrat, I will no longer support them. I will not endorse them. I will not financially support them, right? None of these challengers. I'm not making this up, y'all. Right here, Political. Let's read it together. Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez privately singled two Democrats that she might, I think that's a type. Oh, sorry, no. She might no longer back congressional primary challenges to her colleagues, according to 3 people familiar with her remarks. The question had been raised when the New York Progressive made her case in a steering and policy committee. Wow, I am rusty. My apologies. I'm reading out loud.
It's hard. I'm smart too, Michael. What about me? All right. For why she should be the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee. It would mark a departure for the outspoken progressive who came to Congress by primarying a Democratic leader and has also backed challenges to other sitting lawmakers since. And she's also funded corporate Democrats. Her money has gone to support corporate Democrats. Let's not forget that. But while Sam Cedars' daughter, who apparently, I mean, talk about nepotism, you just get to throw up your question up there, right? Paints AOC as the victim, betrayed by the Democratic Party. Oh, we have, so many different types of liberals that you have to appeal to. Is it difficult, right? AOC, in her bid for the Oversight Committee, the head of the Oversight Committee, was willing to abandon, pull up the ladder behind her, Democratic challengers to incumbents, to the establishment, to corporate Democrats, to gain this position. So think about this for a second. If she would have won, and she would have abandoned supporting any other challengers, how was she gonna gain enough support within the Democratic Party from non-establishment, non-corporate Dems to actually change things from the inside?
Man, does that fool yap. I try my best not to be petty, but I gotta check on this. I try my best. I can't help it. It's who I am. I just want to see the transcript. Is it up yet? It's not up yet. Homie tried to downplay a Nazi tattoo is wild. All right, let's log back in. Yeah, we're good to go. You know what? I just realized I might be neglecting the live chat over there. Claudia, appreciate y'all being over there. Oh, Pancho was over there for a second too. I see that. Fatima, thank you. The Deculturation live chat. All right, let's keep it pushing. Oh, he didn't? John Trudell, he didn't? Because he was watching my my comments. Gio Maher saw my comments. Because they're like, oh, the drama in the chat. Go fuck yourself, homie. This ain't drama, dog. This is not drama. Holding war criminal fucking white supremacists accountable ain't drama. But again, a lot of these academics, bro, se ponen muy cómodos y piensan que everyone's gonna handle situations the same way that they would in their staff meetings. Nah, bro. Nah. Again, I mean, one of the benefits and one of the things I had to consider, and the reason why I wasn't going off the way I wanted to, was the chat wasn't moving that much. And I also don't want to be rude or disrespectful to Lara, because I think, again, man, if I could have a a portion of her intellect, I die a happy man. You know what I mean? Yeah, he's written some interesting stuff. That's why I was kind of surprised. And I don't think Lada's going to have individuals. At least I didn't think. I don't know. No, we're talking about Grand Planner himself. But the guy was Geo Maher, an anarchist, academic. Anywho, I try to be gracious, because I'm like, hey, maybe he didn't know. But then that little comment, that's all it takes for me, bro. I'm a hothead. That's all it takes for me. I'm petty. That's all it takes. That's all it takes for me to be like, all right, I know where you stand. You know where I stand. It's all good. Really? Because when I looked them up, because you know I looked them up. Well, the overview says he's an anarchist. He's in Berkeley. That ain't that far, homie. Anywho. Pepe, I don't really like the schizo thing. A lot of white libs use that shit, like Hassan Piker. And it's just, I don't like the minimizing of mental health. I really don't. Let's see here. Thing right there. All right, let's refocus. Put the pettiness aside. And let's refocus. All right, y'all. Look, I see the geos sticking out for each other. I see the geos sticking up for each other. Again, if it wasn't for his little petty ass comment talking about drama and what you call yourself, in other words, you can't accept that you fucked up, that you're misinformed, or that you straight up lied. He said that Grant Plattner is a socialist. We just went over this yesterday. He ain't a socialist. So either you're misinformed or you're lying on the behalf of a white war criminal with a white supremacist symbol tattooed on his chest for a decade, only to replace it with a dog whistle, quite literal Celtic dog. You want to be petty? Go fuck yourself, dog. It ain't that complicated. But we saw Grant Plattner say, I'm not a communist, and tied is connected to the socialist part because he called himself like a socialist hippie gardener or some shit like that in one of his online posts. And what did he say? He said, I was trolling, I was joking. If you actually read it, it was tongue in cheek, all this bullshit, right? Oh, Gio's from Maine? I did see that when I was looking him up. That makes sense. Hey, what do we say? Whoa. Woe is me, says the white man. Whiteness over everything. Whiteness over everything. It ain't cream, but it's still pretty good. Yeah, hey, if they're talking about National Socialism, we said that. That's the Bernie crap. That's the Bernie way. Jay Taylor. Yeah, I mean, it's just, especially with the lack of healthcare, mental health care that's provided for people. Having volunteered and not in any legitimate organizational manner, with a lot of homeless people out here in the LA area, a lot of that shit, you realize that not only the stigma but the mocking of mental health is something that I try not to participate in. That's why I say wild a lot, because I try to stop saying crazy. Again, these fucking white men that cry about wokeness and woke scold and call themselves part of the left, I find so fucking pathetic. Like, be accountable to your actions and the words and the way that you communicate and carry yourself. It doesn't take much. It doesn't take much to adjust. It just takes a little bit of effort. And you're going to slip up. You're going to make a mistake, sure. But demonstrate that you're trying to improve and be a better person to your fellow human beings. Or else, what the fuck are we doing here? What is the point? Whoa, I didn't know. Cinnabon on the Twitch chat says, a little late, that last subject reminded me of this. After the Camp Grant massacre, Chief Eskeminzen shot a white rancher he had been friends with. When asked why years later, he said, quote, to teach my people that there must be no friendship between them and the white man. Anyone can blank an enemy, but it takes a strong man to blank a friend. Homie said, lead by example. Wow. I had not heard that story. Nor do I advocate for such tragic incidents befalling colonizers. All right, let's refocus. Pity parties, like surprise parties, it's always whoa, it's me. Coast Contra. Oh, I've not heard that one. What is going on with Yipper? All right, let's refocus. Trump declares he must be involved in picking Khamenei's successor. It's never enough, but there's a funny, kind of weird bragging, like very pathetic way of bragging about Venezuela that's in this article that I'm interested in. U.S. President Donald Trump has insisted that he must be involved. U.S. President Donald Trump has insisted that he must be involved in choosing Iran's next supreme leader, drawing a comparison to the situation in Venezuela. It is fucking hilarious. After the kidnapping of President Nicolas Maduro and his wife during an Axios phone interview reported on the 5th of March. Quote, they are wasting their time. Khamenei's son is a lightweight. I have to be involved in the appointment, like with Delcy Rodriguez in Venezuela. And you know, people like Bad Empanada are just going to be celebrating that. Be like, see, I told you. And this is just showmanship. How the fuck was Donald Trump involved in appointing the vice president of Venezuela in becoming the president if you kidnap Nicolas Maduro and his wife? That was literally the next person. It's not like he appointed them. It's not like he looked at a roster and said, oh, I want that person. This is why Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez was crying that Donald Trump and his administration left the government of Venezuela functioning. In other words, her or the Democratic Party would have done a better job at destroying the entire governmental infrastructure in Venezuela. She was complaining that the government was still up and running. So how the fuck, I mean, how far back does this go? I don't know. Ask Bad Empanada how long Delcy has been a fucking CIA operative. Please educate us. I mean, I don't know if y'all heard, but Delcy was talking about having to meet with the head of the CIA who tortured her father. Apparently, she's such a psychopath that she willingly sold out to them and isn't trying to keep Venezuela functioning and maintain a state where people aren't being massacred, because the U.S. government proved that they'd be more than happy to do that. Khomeini's son is unacceptable to me. We want someone that will bring harmony and peace to Iran. You're looking for the fucking avatar? What the harmony and peace? Fuck, bro. No manches. During the 8-minute phone interview, Trump discussed his war planning and the secession crisis following the killing of Iran's supreme leader, Ali Khamenei, and acknowledged that his son, Mojtaba Khomeini, has emerged as the leading candidate to succeed his father. I will say, I mean, personally, I don't like secession stuff like that. I really don't. I don't care for it. I like the show. Don't care for like the lineage. You see it in North Korea too. But I'm not educated on how individuals are elected. So what the fuck do I know? It's just instinctual for me to be like, I don't know. I don't vibe with the whole like Clinton's Bush's kind of vibe thing going on. But I do think it's because we've been indoctrinated to view like monarchies as, and that lineage as like something retrograde or something that we should immediately connect with authoritarianism or a lack of true democracy. Linstack, you're right. Harmony with Israel. You're not wrong, TARDIS. They have to present Venezuela as a total victory because they're being humiliated by Iran. They are. They are. I mean, it's interesting because it's like, it's so much barking, bro. And they literally had to massacre school children in order to feel like great about themselves. Iranian authorities have delayed announcing a successor for several days. Those statements by Iranian politicians suggest the decision could come soon. U.S. President said he would reject any successor who continues the policies of the late leader, warning that Washington would return to military aggression if Iran's next leadership failed to align with U.S. demands. As earlier in the week, who should replace Khomeini, Trump bluntly told reporters at the White House, most of the people we had in mind are dead. I mean, if that doesn't highlight how indiscriminate their murder campaign is, that the people that you planned or were hoping you'd be able to put in the position of leadership, you've exterminated. Because to the colonizers, they kill first, plan later. His comments directly contradicted what other U.S. officials asserted publicly, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and other senior figures repeatedly denying that the objective of the joint U.S.-Israeli attack on Iran is regime change, but rather to weaken Iran's missile program, nuclear infrastructure, and naval forces. oh no, we're just trying to destroy all their military capabilities, but we're not doing regime change. We just want to be able to destroy and eliminate anything that can stop us from regime change. Meanwhile, the leadership secession process within Iran has taken place under escalating military assault. Israel bombed a building in the city of Qom on Tuesday that houses the clerical body responsible for selecting the next supreme leader in what appeared to be an attempt to disrupt the vote, the report noted. 100%, man. 100%. AOC would have gotten this done. AOC would have gotten this done. This is rookie ass shit right here. AOC can have a functioning, efficient, evil empire. Trump also drew parallels between Iran's leadership secession on the U.S. regime change operation in Venezuela earlier this year, after U.S. forces captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro during a military raid in January and flew him to the United States for imprisonment. Acting President Delcy Rodriguez assumed power shortly afterward. Trump later described Venezuela as our new friend and partner, adding that the oil is beginning to flow, following the visit to Caracas by U.S. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum. It is so ridiculous because these were the deals that Maduro was trying to secure. Maduro, as well as Chavez, were always willing to work with the U.S. and U.S. corporate or European corporate entities. They were always willing to do that. It wasn't like they were isolationists. They were isolated, but they were always willing to work and be part of the larger international community. They have never been, I mean, this whole idea of like these national or socialist projects being hermits is ridiculous. They've always been more than willing to negotiate, except they want to make sure that, you know, their people, when you see it with nationalization, are compensated for their natural resources of the land. And that alone is viewed as too much. Because you got to take what you're given, right? You got to take what you're given. It's a little dark in here. You can't ask for more. You can't negotiate. You say thank you and you move on. I think that wraps it up. Man. It's a good thing we have a rule-based order, right? And that's the problem, right, James? They may have been willing to work with the West, but they were not willing to submit. Yeah. I do want to go over, this first. You know we love them. The Majority Report, led by Emma Vigeland. I believe this is like a Thursday show then. Look at this.
877 Cars for Kids. 1877 Cars for Kids says, there's nothing the Iranian government can do that I will condemn except surrender. I mean, not nothing that they can do. You could probably condemn them slaughtering the protesters in the streets. I think that we can hold those two thoughts in the same place.
What did we say yesterday with Alejandra Ocasio-Cortez, her hero? The moment that you hear two truths, or we could hold two thoughts, or we could... You're hedging. You're fucking hedging. That's what you're doing. You're hedging. It's fucking pathetic. Just be honest about what you want. You want the whole world to assimilate to your fucking values and to what you deem correct. And here's the best part. Her former best friend over here, Anna Kasparian, offered more pushback. Where's she at? I'm sorry that I had to pull this up. Piers Morgan. I know.
The reality is,
there's a portion here where Yeah, here we go.
Cenk Uygur.
Piers Morgan tries to spread the lie of the casualties in Iran.
Who you referenced at the top of the show. You know, he did a tweet which even I recalled. I like Cenk a lot, but you know, he called the Ayatollah courageous because he hadn't gone on his knees to Israel. Did you agree? I mean, do you think the Ayatollah Khamenei was a courageous man?
Well, he never capitulated to the Israelis, and we live under a government where, regardless of which party is in power,
Of course, you gotta have the Zog fucking talking points. Of course, when it's anti-conspiracy, you gotta have to have the Zog fucking talking points.
is on its knees on behalf of Israel. So I understand what he's talking about. He's talking about government leaders, a country's leader in the case of Iran. As much as I did not agree with the Ayatollah, I'm not a religious person, and I certainly don't like extremism or supremacy of any kind. The fact of the matter is he didn't embarrass his people by getting down on his knees to pleasure Israel, as our leaders here in the United States do. So
Again, these Zog fucking talking points are meant to protect the WASP. Zog protects WASP. The merch is going to drop soon. This whole shit, this anti-Semitic conspiracy theory, even if we're criticizing Zionism, even if we're anti-Zionist, the moment that you start saying that the Zionists control the U.S. to any fucking degree, blackmail, whatever you want to call it, you're protecting WASP. You're protecting the real corporates. If we're going to say, oh, a certain religion is causing torment, it's the fucking evangelical movement. It's the Christian nationalist evangelical movement. That's what it is. Zionism and Jewish supremacy, if you want to take that approach, could not do anything without the support, without the protection, without the aid of the United States and its leadership, which is made up of what? Christian nationalists. That we don't really talk about, at least not sufficiently. That Anna Kasparian can't lock in on, because then she's not going to get the support that she's been getting by these reactionaries in blaming everything on Israel. Doesn't matter that Joe Biden literally said, if Israel didn't exist, we'd have to create it. Meaning it's not about the Zionist project. It's not about Israel. It's about U.S. interests. And it doesn't matter who we have to use, what we have to create to destabilize the region. We're going to support it because it benefits us first and foremost. So don't believe this bullshit. It's Zog. There's a reason why these white militias, born out after Vietnam, truly embraced after Vietnam, were obsessed with Zog. Because they thought that somehow Israel and Jewish people infiltrated their Christian white government and corrupted the promise of the founding fathers. Delusional bullshit. They are the fucking villains. They're the big bad guy. All right? And they want, don't get me wrong, a bloodstained scapegoat, but they want that.
I understand the point that he was trying to make. And I think if you talk to a lot of Americans, they are embarrassed by the fact that our leadership rarely represents our best interests and seems to prioritize the best interests of Israel in every instance. And I think that what we're experiencing right now is a good example of that.
But this is an Ayatollah who only a few weeks ago slaughtered 30,000 of his people to repress them from protesting.
That number's not confirmed, so you regurgitating it is very questionable, Pierce. Where'd you get that number from?
How many do you... Okay, well, how many do you think were killed?
We don't know the exact number. But to say that 30,000 people were slaughtered during those short weeks is ridiculous to me. Iran
Well,
has put out specific names of individuals who have been killed, and it's around 3,000. We don't know what the exact number is, but you really think 30,000 people were killed? You're not going to question that at all? 30,000?
Well, I just...
You like how you, my headpiece. Sorry. I was spreading imperial propaganda. I'm sorry. I'm unbiased.
I'm curious, if you don't think it's 30,000, how many do you think it was?
Homie, you're the one saying 30,000 and not providing any citation. Is she stupid enough not to flip it? To allow him to flip it, excuse me?
I don't know the exact number. No one knows the exact number.
But you know...
But
if you don't know the number, how do you know? Well, hang on.
Because you're the one giving a number. You're the one giving a number. You're the one giving a number. You're the one providing a fact. And she's simply saying, hey, there's no evidence for that. And your return is, then what's the number? She's saying there's no evidence to know what the number is. You're the one trying to provide a concrete number to support the U.S. operation to destabilize Iran, to vilify them, to give them an excuse to commit like regime change.
Hang on a second. Hang on a second.
I've said multiple times. No, I'm not going to hang on for a second. I've said multiple times. I don't agree or like the regime in Iran. That doesn't mean that it's untrue that they never capitulated to what Israel demanded of them. Whereas here in the United States, we literally spill blood and use our treasure on behalf of Israel. That's the point that Cenk was trying to make. And I think it's a pretty accurate.
This is why they need the anarchist barons. The same reason they need the Hassan Pikers and the Sam Cedars to muddy the fucking waters. We have to wade through her bullshit of Zog fucking... Doesn't say like I don't even know. It's not dementia, but like Zog nonsense. To get to a larger point that Piers Morgan is trying to push this narrative, just like Emma Vigeland, that Iran massacred tens of thousands of innocent civilian protesters.
Okay, you can make that point. I'm questioning the... Hang on 1 second, please. I'm questioning the use of the word courageous about...
All right, I don't care about that. So we go back to this, right?
877 Cars for Kids, 1877 Cars for Kids says, there's nothing the Iranian government can do that I will condemn except surrender. Well, I mean, not nothing that they can do. You could probably condemn them slaughtering the protesters in the streets. I think that we can hold those two thoughts in the same place.
But here's the problem. I see you, old Tutrell. I see you. Here's the problem. And there's a lot of videos I can't pull up from Twitter. To phrase it or to frame it like these were just innocent protesters and not combatants and not infiltrators trying to destabilize and give the U.S. an excuse, it's too much. U.S. smuggled thousands of Starlink terminals into Iran after protest crackdowns. How many do you think were already in there in preparation for this? I remember the week of when this happened. Countless of videos of so-called protesters shooting at not just other protesters, but also individuals trying to capture them that were part of Iran's government on the behalf of the U.S. and to destabilize their country for a U.S. invasion or to give them pretext for it. And you saw them with Starlink on their backpacks. There we go, ode to John Trudell. Who attacks hospitals, ambulances, police stations, and firefighters? We know who. Exactly. The Zionist entity on behalf of the U.S. Don't get that shit twisted. I wonder if I go find them real quick. There's a bunch that I couldn't show them. Because it was legit like... Let me see. Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to find it, unfortunately. Or let's see if I can find this one here. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. So you see this over here? If this is one of the 3,000 peaceful protesters. All right. This is the article that they reference. I'm being attacked. God damn, what the fuck, bro? No, we're not doing all that. Here we go. Mossad spurs Iran protest, says agents with demonstrators in Farsi message. As protests grow across Iran, the Mossad posted an unusual Farsi message urging demonstrators to act, saying it is with them in the streets amid rising economic pressure and public unrest. This was just in December 29th. On Monday, the Mossad used its Twitter account in Farsi to encourage Iranians to protest against the Iranian regime, telling them that it will join them during the demonstrations to go out together into the streets. The time has come. They were going to use them as human shields. It continued, "We are with you, not only from a distance and verbally, we are with you in the field." Bro, they're bragging about this shit. Because what are the consequences? What are the consequences? None. In June, the Mossad had hundreds of agents involved in Israel's 12-day war, which set back Iran's nuclear program, ballistic missile program, air defense system, and killed dozens of its top military intelligence officials. Following the war, Mossad Director David Bornia released a rare statement foreshadowing the spy agency's activities in Tehran, telling the general public that Israel will continue to be there like we have been there. And this isn't just flexing. This is not just flexing. The Twitter statement were issued as Iran protests spiked over the collapse of Iran's real currency and a rise in fuel prices, as well as recent crisis regarding a supply of water nationwide. It was unclear if Mossad was revealing more of its hand because they truly believed that it could help the current protests topple the regime, or if the statement are part of a broader and longer-term psychological warfare. They're that arrogant. Colonizers have always been arrogant. Always. Not to get sidetracked, but goddamn, bro. I need to get back in shape. I have an uncanny ability in my attempt to be cool and calm to attract training partners who either are green, unbeknownst to me, or just do not care to control themselves. I'm an asshole. I'm a hothead, but when I go train, it is my therapy. It is where I try to be the better version of myself because I'm your teammate. And man, was I getting some heat thrown my way, bro. And so my left shoulder's a little sore. It's been a while. I was gonna be sore anyways. But I got hit like twice solid where I was like, can I be an asshole? Can I just But then they got tired and they calmed down, and then we were able to actually train properly. And yeah, I'm not a nice guy, but in training wise, yeah, I have to be. I don't want anyone getting hurt, and I'd rather take a licking than be the guy known to be a gym bully. Hell yeah, CT over therapy any day of the week, bro. Therapy, what? Let's talk about your trauma. CT, let's forget about your trauma. Sounds like a fucking bargain to me, bro. Yeah, it was. That's so funny. That's a callback right there. Yeah, battle of attrition, yes. But I'm in horrible shape. I haven't trained in months. It's just been too busy. And thankfully the individual was heavier than I was, but most of that was muscle, and they burned themselves out. Not that I was in great shape to begin with, but I was like, and we weren't even sparring. That's what frustrated me. We were doing drills where I was supposed to be defending. Anyways, so I couldn't throw back. That was exhausting me too, is having to throw back. Not throwing back, excuse me. No, I don't. I just a lot of pillow fighting. But yeah, and he had long arms. So I was like, man. But I was laughing because I was like so out of shape and still being able to kind of maneuver fairly well. But it always takes me a little bit to remember how to cut, like get used to my footing again, to cut corners and hit angles. It always takes me a little bit. So I'm backing up too much. And no, the drill wasn't to throw back. The one was throwing and the other one was blocking and trying to clinch. And but they were throwing so much heat my way where I couldn't even, man, it was, and I'm rusty right now. But I needed it. I needed that. As upsetting as it was, but they clocked me good once, and I was just like, just holding back not to be an asshole. And the room was pretty full, and it was evident enough to where the coach had to speak up and be like, hey, you guys need to calm down. I was like, all right, whatever. But it was fine. All right. Iran and the psychopathology of white supremacy. Damn. That fucking title. By Baraka. I promise y'all we're going to read this. We're going to read it. Let me close this out real quick. So this is for Emma Vigeland over here. Dedicated to Emma Vigeland. The sincere belief that the sadistic brutalization of the Palestinian people would sever their connection to their land. That 60-year siege on Cuba would compel brutalizing this. Let's start from the top. The sincere belief that the sadistic brutalization of the Palestinian people would sever their connection to their land, that the 60-year siege on Cuba would compel its people to abandon their revolution, or that assassinating Iran's revolutionary and spiritual leadership would force the country to surrender its sovereignty to his historic tormentors in the United States and the Zionist ethno-state of Israel. These are not simply policy miscalculations. They are manifestations of what I call the psychopathology of white supremacy. It doesn't get better than this, folks. It doesn't get better than this. God damn. The psychopathology is not reducible to individual prejudice. It is a racialized, narcissistic, cognitive disorder embedded in the ideological and institutional architecture of Western power. Fucking shit, bro. Isn't that just, especially after Red Nation, Kim Tallbear, isn't this just perfect? Isn't this just perfect? Man. It centers Europe and its settler extensions as the apex of human development. Animal kingdom, baby. They're the apex predator. So what they are and what they push forward must be the most glorious thing that we can achieve. It centers Europe and its settler extension as the apex of human development and renders its adherents incapable of perceiving objective reality when confronted with non-European resistance. While rooted in the historical experience of Europe and its encounters with non-European people during the expansion of European power, it can affect anyone socialized within the ideological and cultural mechanisms of the pan-European colonial project. Meaning we are susceptible to it because we've been conditioned, we've been educated, we've been nurtured, we've been raised in the belly of the beast. And this is why you have to be aware of your own shortcomings. This is why I can't stand these fucking white men crying about woke school this. Because we can all fall victims to, we are all susceptible to this European mentality, this Eurocentric mind. In fact, that is what's easiest to us. That is what is most convenient to us. That is what is more, digestible for us. We've been accustomed to consuming the pan-European colonial project and way of thinking, their ideology. Hell, we speak, think, and dream in their fucking language. As a non-material conceptual frame, it nevertheless produces material consequences. Since the first sustained contact between emerging European powers and non-European world, this affliction has shaped policies that devastated societies, cultures, and millions of lives. It ensures that Western decision makers repeatedly construct strategies that are counterproductive even to their own long-term interests when dealing with non-European peoples. In other words, cooperation is actually more beneficial to the colonizer. If they would have chosen cooperation, in the long run, it would have been beneficial for them as well. I mean, the fact that what they do and how they carry out capitalism it will destroy the planet. Again, I try not to talk about this because it's really, in that sense, I lack hope. But in the long run, if it wasn't for their fucking bullshit, their greed, the planet would have been a better place for the human species. But these motherfuckers do not see themselves or do not see us as part of the human species. They really truly believe that God gave them dominion over the land, that they are separate from the land. And they see us as savages, part of the land because of the way that we used to live. Clearly, we saw ourselves as part of the larger ecosystem and not above it. So because of that, we must also be beasts of burden. We are also part of what God gave them as their dominion. We are to be conquered. We're to be used in the same way any other beast of burden is. The disastrous decision to attack and escalate against Iran exemplifies this dynamic. It reflects arrogance and hubris.
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
Harutsu, please, if you have time, look into the book, Yorugu. I hope that's for the chat. I mean, we went over it last time when we were talking with, who was it? Dr. Ball. was talking about that food, eggs and crisp or whatever. And we had I mean, man, Dr. Ball, the stories that he had. We had a long private conversation, and because he was right. He's like, I bet you he hasn't read the book. He said that in the chat. And I saw somebody else post a video breaking down why the book itself contains a chapter that contradicts everything that this eggs and grits guy was pushing. So I sent that to Dr. Ball, and then we had a long conversation about that. And it's always just fascinating, like, the stories this man has. Is that not his name? What's his name? I don't know. The Hotep Elder Scrolls. Interesting. Grits and eggs. Which one is it? I don't fucking know. Oh, it's grits and eggs. Okay, yeah. I'm sorry, chat. I didn't realize we had to be so respectful of I said crisp. Is that, I don't know what is it. Did I actually say that, or is just my fucking accent / mumbling / unable to pronounce basic fucking words? All right. I apologize. I insulted your favorite podcaster. The disastrous decision to attack and escalate against Iran exemplifies this dynamic. It reflects arrogance and hubris born of centuries of assumed supremacy, temporarily reinforced by episodic tactical gains elsewhere, such as Venezuela. Yet this posture ignores profound global shifts in power. Western policymakers are unable or unwilling to recognize that the conditions that once enabled them to impose their will unilaterally no longer exist. They act as if the world remains frozen in the immediate post-Cold War moment, when U.S. hegemony appeared uncontested. There's also this weird thing, because I agree with this aspect of it, but I've seen a lot of liberals push this. And I've seen this creep Destiny push it a lot too, where they believe that after the Cold War ended, or post-Cold War, that the FBI and CIA no longer had a reason to continue their covert operations because they won. They were victorious. They defeated communism. And it's like, oh no, yeah. Institutions that skirt the line of not just democracy, but transparency and legality. What they're known to do is, when they're victorious, then they cool down. Then they cool off. They're like, all right, we won. Let's go celebrate. And not, okay, let's secure our power further. Y'all gotta be nice. Not nice. Just be critical, but be critical with substance. Be critical with substance. You don't gotta be nice. You could be petty. But be critical with substance. We're not gonna just do straight insults like that. Makes us look bad. Have a little class out here. No, have substance. Have substance. Where are we? Who's just encouraging? No, we're talking about FD. I mean, look, we can be critical. We could be hypercritical. But if y'all saw Dr. Ball today on I Mix What I Like, I don't know. They look fairly young, but I guess they're a doctor. They already have their PhD. Wild. This individual on TikTok was shouting out Dr. Ball. And Dr. Ball was like, excited and stuff because, you get to a certain age and it's just, You get excited when young people, you know about you. And but then obviously you get to the part where the guy says, "Oh, I was able to find Dr. Ball's work through FD Signifier." It's hard to knock that and to be completely like, it's hard to knock that. How do you deny that? How do you deny that? And so while I'm going to grind my teeth and provide my criticism, I always have to be like, you're kind of right. You're kind of right. No, hey, look, it's not me saying, do as I say, not as I do. It's not that. Seeing that, I don't know. It makes it difficult because I want people to know who Dr. Ball is. You know what I mean? So if somebody with a larger platform is able to push individuals to find Dr. Ball, and yes, selfishly was able to, help me out to gain a wider audience. The pipeline strategy that Bad and the Twitch chat is talking about seems to have some benefit. Then it's hard to knock completely. It's hard to knock completely. And then we talked earlier in the stream about the individual Cam, right? The conversation I had with Dr. Ball was very, it made me appreciate him and his ability to self-reflect and be humble and willing to learn. I do think there was like one or two moments where he kind of stretched my suspense of disbelief. It kind of stretched my good faith. But then he made another video and he was right. He did burn some bridges. Dr. Ball over here stealing Norm Finkelstein's lines, I don't know how that tribe operates. I don't know. There's a percentage that he's got to provide to Finkelstein, talking about burning bridges. I think every time you use that phrase, you gotta a royalty check to Finkelstein. But it's I was listening to that with somebody who's not really, politically engaged in the same way. And I mentioned, I go, this fool Cam just burned a lot of bridges. He's not wrong. Because if you start cozying up to those individuals in the industry in Hollywood, you could set yourself up to be the next generation. What's this fool's name that they were talking about? The old timer? Is it like, oh yeah. What's the name of what's this fool's name? I'm really bad with names. Henry Louis Gates. Cam could have been setting himself up to be the next Henry Louis Gates. Lewis. Cam could have been setting himself up to be that. The online new generation Henry Louis Gates. And he burned that bridge. And it would have been nice, the platform, the compensation of selling out. And he chose not to do that. Now, is this a hyper fucking 4D chess move? Only time will tell. But it sounded fairly sincere. Again, one or two moments where I was a little shaky. If not, I just, again, maybe he's a busy man or whatever, but, and this channel was inspired in combating liberal Zionism, so maybe I'm not being fair. And maybe that should encourage me to be more diligent or return to highlighting the insidious nature of liberal Zionist propaganda. Because they still want to do a video on Peter Beinart and Sam Cedar separate videos. Jon Stewart, I'll wait a little bit longer because he's digging his own grave. That's awesome. But yeah. Yeah, I know that he has a platform for that, but he's making a political pivot or emphasizing politics more. And I recommend hearing the conversation. They talk about it pretty openly. T exists here. Just got in, had to rewind a little. Thank you for standing up against the word schizo and discussing the way crazy lands for some people who are suffering from mental illness. Anyways, was meaning to read this article. Hopefully it's short. ADHD. The ending. I know the chat. I love the chat.
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
Have you heard Gates insult Kwame Ture? No, I haven't. But I think they reference it. I think Dr. Ball brings it up. Or Cam brings it up that Dr. Ball has spoken about it. But exists here. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just trying to do your best and trying to be better. That's all it is. Hearing people, marginalized communities voice their concerns and trying your best to adjust and grow. I don't understand how people are so reluctant. I do understand. I do get it because it's easy, it's convenient, and it provides you a space for your audience to also act in this retrograde manner, this socially regressive form. It's safe. It coddles whiteness for sure. All right. Let's log back in. Yes, the post-Cold War. Okay. And thank you, Ace, for the super chat. This cognitive distortion is inseparable from white supremacy itself, which operates ideologically and structurally. Ideologically, white supremacy posits that the descendants of Europe represent the highest stage of civilization, that their institutions, religions, and social systems are inherently superior. Structurally, it is expressed through global institutions and arrangements that reproduce Western dominance. The International Monetary Fund, World Bank, World Trade Organization, NATO, the global banking system, and dollar hegemony. These institutions function as material instruments for maintaining global white power. Following the Second World War, the Nuremberg Principles, and the I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I blame one of my coworkers. I have a coworker who's very light-skinned. Both of his parents are black and not light-skinned. And so occasionally, when we start talking shit and roasting, that'll come up because we're essentially the same shade. I'm so sorry. It was such a random thing. Food's funny as hell. But the whole Bisbee, the Dave Chappelle Bisbee thing. Anyway, sorry, my bad. Yeah. Nah, T exists here. No, I started laughing because my ADHD is bad. Clearly, literally demonstrating it right now. Because when I read Global White Power, I heard his voice shouting just this part here. Yeah, because it's a whole thing. We're blue collar workers. There's some dumbass shit that we say to each other that It is only appropriate when we're like talking shit to each other and trying to insult each other. There's another little moment with another coworker, and I was really close to his cousin that used to work there. Funny ass fool, and he is. So his cousin was the shortest big dude that I knew that can do multiple backflips. It was crazy. The dude was like 5'6" tops, pudgy as hell, and just can do backflips like nothing, like super athletic. It was wild to see. Hilarious, bro. I remember one time he said, and obviously using more colorful language, that he loved being in the club in the where the what's the word? Not the chairs, the fucking where you slide in. What is that called? Booth. He loves being at the booths. Because he was saying when you're a short individual, you could stand on the on the booth and wave people in to let them. It's so. I mean, anywho. But his cousin, who I work with now, he cuts me, right? Like I'm trying to get some supplies, and he cuts me, and just a troll. I'm like, yo, and one, I don't care. I'm not trying to get to work. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? I'm like, I was here first. Or no, I was in line, right? And I said I was here first. And this fool goes, technically we were here first. Mind you, he's black. And so I caught what he was saying. Mind you, this is like 7 a.m. in the morning, and we're already fucking doing this. And I start laughing, and I just nod my head. I go, yeah, but we were closer. And he starts cracking. He's like, touche. Sorry. This is so out of left field. My bad. We're gonna edit all this out. It's fine. Following the Second World War, the Nuremberg Principles and the United Nations Charter affirmed that all peoples possess the right to peace, sovereignty, and self-determination. States were not to interfere in the internal affairs of others. These commitments were framed as extensions of Enlightenment liberalism. Yet for those subject to colonial conquest and racial capitalism, these ideals were always contradicted by practice. Liberal universalism proclaimed equality, while colonial modernity imposed hierarchy. Still, the myth of the Western moral superiority endured, particularly among Western elites. Their colonized intermediaries and privileged sectors of the white working class, the white working classes who benefited materially from imperial plunder. Which part do you not get? Oh, so he and Walker, him saying we were here first, meaning black people were here first, in a reference to me being of Mexican descent. So me shooting back saying we were closer is meaning the border's here. It's racism, bro. I don't know what to tell you. Bain, China 444. Wait, I fear Adam Friedland did not actually say the N-word. It's the same sentiment, even they're bleeping it out a bit, but for accuracy's sake, that did not happen. So somebody bleeped it out? Is that what you're saying? Or are you claiming that the way that they put out the episode was that they bleeped out a word that he did not say? That's what I'm asking. Because this whole shit about years old videos only proves my point. of the continuous inconsistencies. Linstack. Oh, actually, the joke doesn't work because technically, the Mexican American War, New Spain lost a lot of its territory in the northern, what now is considered Southwest America. Listen, you nerd. 7 a.m, we're trying to be racist to each other. We're just having a good time. But technically, my family comes from further into Mexico, so it still wouldn't work. It's all love, Linstack. It's all Linstack, I am questioning your workplace now and your environment. I don't know if you're in an office space, if you're in the ivory tower, or what's going on. The point is not accuracy. The point is to embarrass and roast each other, really. Can you imagine Linstack in a roast battle being like, stop laughing. It doesn't make sense. All right. That's fucking hilarious. We need more of this. Soulful oat milk reminds me of when my Afro Latino Dominican friend and I were joking about a Dominican Dora. And I say, fuck it. Dora no black. Why? Why do y'all do this to me? I'm so glad the channel's not big enough to get clipped, but goddamn. I got this. Hold on. Dora no black. Dora Dominican. Can you say soy Dominican? Oh, fuck. Bro, I'm imagining a bunch of little kids repeating that shit. I'm fucked for laughing that much, man. God damn, bro. That's fucking hilarious. That is so fucking stupid. Fuck. Thank you for that. God damn. Man. That's great. Oh, man. Y'all are too much, man. Y'all have no respect for this great piece of writing. Man. Man. That was amazing. Emblem Faith, Patrick's hilarious. That was awesome. Thank you for that. I got two so the homie who is light skinned, we're the same shade. Used to have locks and cut them off. Now has like probably like 4 on top, tapered. Bro, man, it's so fucking funny. It's straight like what was already assumed to be like Caribbean, right? At least what he would tell me is like, oh yeah, all the time. I hear it all the time. Like people assuming that he spoke patois or something. And then after cutting his hair off, you know, people now assume that he is like Caribbean and like Puerto Rican, Dominican, you know, that aspect of it. Which is just fucking hilarious. And then he's got the beard, so that doesn't help. And sometimes he'll shave his upper mustache, does not help at all. Right? Does the Dagestani cut. So him, and I got another coworker that also has a similar like Puerto Rican look to him, but he's like Hispanic, Latino, but not like very, very light skinned in terms of like almost white. And this one day, they're cool, but they don't really hang out like that. One day they're both sitting down in chairs next to each other. And I shouted something like, look, they're waiting to they're sitting waiting to go up to bat. All right. Can we lock in? Can we fucking lock in? Actually, I got an hour. We can fuck around a little bit more, but I got an hour. All right. All right. Let's refocus. Y'all make it so difficult. All right. All right. Gaza has torn away the remaining veil. The spectacle of mass destruction, rationalized and defended in the name of civilization, exposes the moral contradictions long embedded in Western political culture. When Western powers felt compelled to maintain the appearance of humanitarian restraint, there were at least rhetorical limits on their conduct. In the current era of openly lawless global fascism, led by the United States and Israel, those self-imposed constraints have disappeared. Which, again, like the veil has been removed. This whole idea of a rule-based order, of international laws, nonsense. It's one of the reasons why, like, Norm Finkelstein was actually defending the Zionist entity by saying, well, if you're going to cite international law recognizes the Zionist entity, so you must recognize it. It's why he opposed BDS and called it a cult. Because he was just staunched in the fact that you have to recognize the right for the Zionist entity to exist. Because he's a fucking Zionist. He's a hypercritical liberal Zionist, but a Zionist nonetheless. And he made the argument with Mehdi Hassan talking about, hey, like, if you want to say that international law is all just, you know, serving the capitalists and the elites, and we shouldn't recognize it, then you shouldn't use it as a defense, or else you're a hypocrite. Like, we have to take the moral high ground. We have to have the morally, internationally recognized position. No, if it's a fucking tool that we could use against them or to highlight their hypocrisy, let's fucking use it. But why would we allow ourselves to be restrained by it when they don't? Fanon talks about that, right? Especially in terms of having prisoners of war and things like that. I think there's limits to it, obviously. But in terms of Norm Finkelstein, like, we have to be able to use different strategies that, especially some of those that we know are going to fail, in order to demonstrate to any novice looking in that, no, look, we tried it their way and it's not working. Does that mean that we have to capitulate in everything else in order to demonstrate that, in order to be completely 100% in good faith? Fuck no. Why? We know the end result is going to be unequal standards. All right. We must harbor no illusions about the nature of Western power or its pathological commitment to maintaining white supremacy, a commitment that has a cross-class character. The dehumanization of non-European peoples has always provided the ideological justification for enslavement, settler conquest in the Americas, colonial consolidation, colonial consolidation in Africa and Asia, and contemporary doctrines such as American exceptionalism. The same biblical imagery invoked in Gaza echoes the language of manifest destiny. The logic is consistent. The lives of non-Europeans are expendable in the service of a civilizational mission atoned by a white Christian God. A white Christian God. A white Christian God. So stop this fucking Zog nonsense. Oh, look, they all go to the wall and pray and this and that. They must be under the control of the fucking Zionists. That's all performative fucking bullshit. In the service of a proxy. Damn. The racial dimensions of imperial aggression becomes particularly clear in cases such as Iran, Venezuela, and Cuba. These are not merely geopolitical rivals. These are targets marked by racialized narratives of irrationality, authoritarianism, and political fanaticism. Narratives that are not just constructed by rightist forces, but embraced by forces that define themselves as left and anti-imperialist. The resistance that emanates from global South forces challenges not only U.S. strategic interests, but the myth of Western in this. Sorry, I had it. Nope. Hold on. Indispensability. In both its left and right expressions. Indispensability. There we go. That was bothering me. The resistance that emanates from global South forces challenges not only U.S. strategic interests, but the myth of Western indispensability in both its left and right expressions. The myth of Western indispensability. So meaning that by resisting Western colonization, it's disputing the fact that European civilization is in the peak of human society. That it's more than just the material that is being resisted, meaning, hey, you're not going to take our land, you're going to take our resources, but also your white supremacist ideology that is being pushed. The hype isn't real there, and we're going to resist it because we believe that we can construct a society that is superior or better than, or at the very least more fair, more egalitarian, more civilized than your so-called superior Western society. And in doing that, you have this cognitive dissonance even within the left, who claims to be on the left who claim to be anti-imperialist, but cannot fathom that their society that they uphold as the most liberal, most democratic, is a facade, isn't the peak of human civilization. Therefore, you have resistance to it. So they find the resistance to this democracy, to their Western way of life, as an upfront, as a personal attack. Because why wouldn't Iran want to mimic the US in the way that they structure society? It's very similar, reminiscent to how these radlibs will push that the Zionist entity needs to follow in the footsteps of the US by ending the apartheid state and granting Palestinians equal rights. Because that's the path that the US took with ending apartheid, in the South, allegedly, right? Or at least the vivid form of it, and then eventually granting civil rights. And that was progress to a more unified country. So instead of advocating for what the resistance, Hamas and the rest of the Palestinian resistance forces are fighting for, the complete destruction of the settler colonial project and the so-called Western values that it's trying to impose, because this is a European project. These are Europeans at the head of the Zionist entity. By resisting that, they're resisting these Western values that white liberals glorify in the trajectory of civilization that the US has demonstrated to be successful, but successful to them, right? And successful to what is comfortable to them. Oh no, you can't resist. You can't use armed resistance. You have to use our legal system to earn your humanity. You have to embrace universal liberalism. Damn. Or am I completely off the mark? That's why they can't support resistance. Oh shit. That's dope. That's fucking awesome. Let me see if I can find this real quick. Am I reading too much into that? I don't know. I think because I was struggling to understand it, because it was I don't know, for me it carried so much weight. Let's see if I can find it real quick. It's funny. Are they flooding the timeline to not provide the context? That's funny because I know I liked this recently. It's his old tweets, and somebody took a screenshot of it. Let me try again. Chat, let me know if I was just tripping out right now. If I'm still high on that laugh. Bro, this was recently too. What the fuck? Oh, here it is. Nope. That's me talking shit. Oh man, who had it? Did I not like this? Sorry for being sidetracked, but you're gonna see what I mean right now with our good friend Ryan Grimm. Maybe the latest would be better. Nope. God damn, what the fuck? I just feel like if I haven't seen it in my liked stuff recently. Let me see if I have it saved here. How we doing, chat? How we doing? Go ahead, do me a favor, hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't. Hit the notification bell if you want to know when I go live. That's Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. The Patreon is up and running. $2 gets you access to the Discord. Super chats and super stickers are welcome. Get busy in the chat. No matter what Yipper's corrupted mind tells you. Okay. Let's just do this. Here we go. Found it. Yes. Ryan Grimm, y'all. Ryan Grimm. And this is from Workshops for Gaza. In case people have forgotten, here's how many leftists were talking about the Palestinian resistance in the days following October 7th. Sound familiar? This is psychotic, Ryan Grimm says. I hate everything Hamas stands for, theocratic fascism and endless violence. That's why I deplore the cynical Netanyahu strategy of propping up Hamas so that there can be no path to Palestinian statehood. He and the government implemented that strategy knowing it, whatever the fuck bullshit he was spewing. Hamas thrives on injustice and occupation. End that and you end Hamas same way you ended the IRA. Fucking wild, bro. Any resistance, Ryan Grimm is going to oppose. Any resistance against white supremacy, Ryan Grimm will oppose. Ryan Grimm, the USA Hamas are bloodthirsty terrorists who care only about themselves and not the Palestinian people. I'm sure there has to be more to that context there, but it's also Ryan Grimm, so fuck that fool. Of course, you see Anna Kasparian. You can condemn Hamas and still care deeply about Palestinians. That's not confusion. That's compassion with a backbone. Thank you. So I don't know who that is, claiming that they should release the hostages. I mean, look, the real haters keep receipts. All right, let's get back to it. I don't know if I was just tripping out right now with what I read. All right. Iran and Venezuela, working with BRICS partners, have developed mechanisms to circumvent sanctions through alternative trade arrangements and digital currencies. They have demonstrated that resource-rich nations can survive economic warfare. Venezuela holds the largest proven oil reserves in the world. Iran ranks among the top 3. Iraq also occupies a critical position. Control over energy resources remains central to U.S. strategy, particularly in relation to China. The contest is not simply about regional influence, but about preventing the emergence of a multipolar order that would weaken dollar dominance and, by extension, U.S. global leverage. I will say, I do not like a lot of the hype around BRICS and a lot of the hype over a multipolar world. And I've spoken about this before. The reason why it was so significant, like during the Cold War era, post-World War II, is because whatever your criticisms of the Soviet Union, it was pushing a socialist project and it was arming decolonial, nationalist, socialist movements. China is not doing that. Whether you want to believe that China is socialist or not, China is not doing that. Objectively speaking, China is not doing that. Russia is not the Soviet Union at all, right? No matter what people want to say about, oh, Putin wants to reestablish the Soviet Union or whatever fucking bullshit. I'm sure there's few people that hate the Soviet Union as much as Putin. And liberals would not be able to fucking understand that, much less agree with it. There's few people in the world that hate the Soviet Union as much as Putin. So even if we're talking about a multipolar world, while that will undoubtedly weaken the US, that does not necessarily mean that it's a benefit for the colonized proletariat. It might give them more room and space to operate, but China, Russia have proven themselves not to be reliable allies against US imperialism because they're concerned about their well-being first and foremost.
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
This is Turtle Island, not a poll for whites to own. Thank you, Emma Flate, for the super chat. But I'm not necessarily agreeing what Barack is saying here. Dollar hegemony has been foundational to post-war U.S. economic growth and its capacity to sustain massive deficits, with national debt approaching unprecedented levels of annual deficit soaring. Levels and annual deficits soaring, maintaining control over energy markets and reserve currency status is not optimal. Sorry. It's about to be 3. My bad. Sorry, I got distracted. Over energy markets and reserve currency status is not optional. It's structural. Can I start that over? Sorry. Dollar hegemony has been foundational to post-war U.S. economic growth and its capacity to sustain massive deficits, with national debt approaching unprecedented levels and annual deficit soaring. Maintaining control over energy markets and reserve currency status is not optional. It is structural, and in fact, existential for Western white hegemony. Under the leadership of the U.S., therefore, what is presented as a security doctrine is in fact an economic imperative. I mean, you got to read between the lines, but the security doctrine is to secure economic dominance. I mean, it's a doublespeak, right, of the state. That's why we can't really fucking get upset at when Pete Hessage renames it, the Department of War. Thank you. Stop the fucking doublespeak. Be proud of what you do. Colonize. Full spectrum dominance, articulated in U.S. national security strategy, calls for preventing the rise of any regional power capable of challenging U.S. supremacy. This doctrine explains the relentless pressure on Iran in West Asia and Venezuela in the Americas. It also clarifies U.S. intervention in Africa, including destabilization efforts that ensure regional powers remain subordinate. Security first narratives, counterterrorism, counter-narcotics, border enforcement provide ideological cover, but beneath them lies a deeper crisis of Western capitalism. As that crisis intensifies, fascistic restructuring becomes more explicit. Opposition to imperial policy is criminalized. Surveillance expands, anti-terror and public order laws are weaponized. Domestically, indigenous, African, Black, migrant, and labor movements are reframed as security threats. Internationally, sanctions regimes function as collective punishment, imposing siege conditions on entire populations. Psychopathology of white supremacy fuels this process. Unable to accept limits, Western elites double down on coercion. Yet this very overreach contains its own contradiction. By misreading global realities and underestimating the resolve of targeted nations, Western powers accelerate their own strategic decline. Each failed intervention erodes legitimacy. Each sanction that pushes nations towards alternative financial system weakens the architecture of dollar dominance. For those engaged in social justice and radical struggle, these developments pose urgent questions. Can justice be achieved domestically without confronting imperial power internationally? Can movements ignore the racialized foundations of global capitalism while seeking reform with its structures? The consolidation The consolidation of fascism abroad and repression at home are not separate phenomena. They are mutually reinforcing. Let's take a little break there. I think sometimes it feels like we're just a little too self-aware, and so we know that counterterrorism, that counter narcotics, that border enforcement are all tools of white supremacy, right? And so a lot of us don't view it as cover anymore. But we have to remember that the majority of people still do. Like the majority of people, and you saw it with Bernie Sanders, will use border enforcement as something that is removed from white supremacy. And it's only until white people are being fucking taken out in the streets that they're like, whoa, 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 what's happening? They need more training. The institutions themselves are forced or created to enforce white supremacy, no matter the amount of training. And sometimes I feel like we need to take a step back and be like, okay, that's right. This is not perceived in general to be forms of white supremacy. This is not what people think of as white supremacy because they're not in fucking hoods. In fact, liberals are upset that ICE agents have their face covered because it's too reminiscent to the Klan. Like, stop doing that. That's not us anymore. While still serving the same white supremacist objectives. They want the veneer to be cleared up. They want the PR to catch up to modern times. To make it seem as if this settler colonial project is progressing to something better and not something more completely like impenetrable. Because that's what it's trying to achieve. Total victory. All right. Renewed U.S. dominance, pursued through militarism and economic warfare, reshapes the terrain of struggle. It narrows democratic space, intensifies polarization, and demands clarity. There can be no effective oppositional politics that refuses to confront the ideological and material consequences of normalized white supremacy. Anti-racism, detached from anti-imperialism, become hollow. Anti-imperialism that ignores racial hierarchy is incomplete and reactionary. The psychopathology of white supremacy, paradoxically, may be its own undoing. By distorting perception, it drives policies that hasten the decline of the collective West. By denying the humanity of others, it strengthens their resolve. Iran, Cuba, Venezuela, and Palestine demonstrate that sovereignty cannot be bombed or sanctioned out of existence. Resistance exposes the limits of pan-European colonial capitalist white supremacy patriarchy. The choice before radical movements is stark. Either we confront fascism, domestically and internationally, and challenge the structures that sustain it, or we drift into accommodation and become complicit in our own subordination. History suggests that empires rarely relinquish power voluntarily. They must be compelled by organized, principled resistance grounded in an unflinching analysis of power. The era of illusions is over. What is required is clarity and the responsibility to act. No compromise, no retreat. By Ajuma Baraka, Black Agenda Report, contributing columnist. Damn, bro. I know we goofed around a lot. I know we were fucking being silly. But this piece is just amazing. Yeah, it is worth rereading on your own, please, without all the sidetracks. My apologies. You fools were a little fucking encouraging my nonsense a little too much. But please read this on your own. I did drop it in the chat. You know, I got about 30 minutes. Let's exit that. We had a couple things lined up. That one. This one. Let's watch a little bit of this because it's kind of funny. Because I feel like I'm telling you, like my conspiracy theory, my big conspiracy theory right now is that liberal political commentators like choose these fucking frauds like Hassan Piker and the smaller creator named Straighterade to be their living, breathing, brainless straw men and straw women, straw people to represent, you know, communism, Marxism. Because they're easy fucking targets. Because they don't really believe in what they're spewing. They just think that it's going to garner them attention and support. And so let's go over a little bit of the nonsense. Obviously, Hutch is a ridiculous fucking centrist liberal that was, factually, we went over it, giddy about his ancestors assaulting a slave that he called it repeatedly, while he was calling his Confederate ancestry and slaveholders heroes and fucking essentially praising the fact that he has this shared ancestry with them.
How do you solve the problem of like supply? Is there currency? So there's no currency in your system, or is there?
No currency ideally. No.
All right. So let's say you decide I want a 80-inch TV in every single room, and then a bunch of other people have the same thought. There's just a permanent TV shortage. Would you ration these kinds of things?
It's so fucking stupid, bro. Because liberals love doing this. Tell me every detail of your proposed society, or else communism fails. Do it now. And the fact that, like, you are so, like, not just naive, so fucking green in your understanding or engagement with liberals and how bad faith, insidious, unserious they are, that you have to, like, that you're actually willingly engaging in these dumbass pointless conversations of like, you're only doing this for attention. If you're claiming to be a communist, you're only doing this for attention. Because the moment you start engaging with, tell me every detail of your society, you're dealing with a fucking child. You're dealing with a fucking child. I mean, one of the reasons why I find scientific socialism to be not just like, I don't know, like, I know it's weird to say, but beautiful, right? But it's the fact that, hey, you're acknowledging that you're gonna fuck up. You're acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, and you're acknowledging that there's gonna be a process of scientific study to find out what works best. That the material conditions will change and will require your system to adapt to the new realities of the material world. That's why, to me, it is so fucking beautiful. Tell me if I'm wrong, though. Maybe the word beautiful isn't accurate. Maybe it's too fucking sentimental. I don't know. But to me, I'm like, oh, that makes fucking perfect sense. There's not going to be a perfect system. But we have to construct a system that is able to adapt to reality and to the fact that we are this fucking roaming piece of dirt in outer space, that there's finite resources, right? And that we have to be willing to adapt to it. There's a reason why here in the Settler Colonial Project, we have one of the most rigid constitutions, one of the most rigid, social government structures, because they don't want shit to change, because they want things to stay benefiting the capitalists, those that are white and already have power. But there is I think there is an answer to this dumbass question. Cinnabon, no, we're not doing the Open Veins in Latin America reading group. I don't know if you missed it. The Cinnabon in the Twitch chat. I was really, really inspired by Socialism for All. And I think that approach is better because we get silly over here. Look how long it took us to get through that Baraka's article. And so looking at the success of the edited videos, I'm like, all right, cool. Why don't I do that for Open Veins and, kind of mimic what Socialism for All has laid out in providing these readings to where I'm not goofing off. I'm not being silly. I'm just reading the tags, providing my insight throughout it, but fundamentally providing somebody with a audiobook with commentary so that people could just tune into that without having to keep up with a weekly thing that will get lost in the shuffle. So this way it's just like, boom, here's, I don't know how long it's going to take to record that. Probably like roughly, 6 hours, 8 hours. And so to where you can just tap into that, pause where you need to pause, pick it up where you need to pick it up, things like that. So that's that update on Open Veins in Latin America. If you disagree with that approach, I understand. It's more enjoyable to kind of just go through it together. But I look at individuals doing what I want to do, but are doing it better. And I want to replicate that. If somebody's got a technique, I'm going to steal that shit. It becomes our technique, comrade, right? So if somebody has a certain style of doing these kind of audiobooks that I find more beneficial for people tapping in, why am I not going to just replicate that? Right? Also, I don't know Socialism for All's background. So I'm going to take a gamble and say that he's white. And so I'm going to claim that I discovered this this method of audiobook / commentary. All right, let's get to this because I have 15 minutes. I had some bookmarks on this, but let me make sure that I didn't erase him. Oh, did I? Or is this a while ago that I listened to this? Okay, no, it's right. It should be right here. Nope, that's Hiram. Oh, did I really not save this? Wow, that is shocking to me. It's slightly disappointing. No, I did. Awesome. Okay, I did. Damn, we're going to go all the way to 2711, y'all. Okay, and Walker, thank you. Socialism for All is white. He said it in the past. Okay. I'm taking his channel. Now I'm just I have discovered his channel. One of my issues too is I try not to take people out of context. So sometimes I start these segments or clips that I find interesting a little too far back. So I apologize in advance for that, but I really hate this whole idea of well, that's out of context. All right. This is, consumer, just a consumer brain rot. Not, hey, how are we going to feed the needy? Hey, how are we going to take care of people? Hey, what if I want a new television? I'll tell you my answer to this, because one of the benefits of being working class blue collar is I think this is just consumer brain rot that he's expressing here. When somebody that is working class background has never heard of any of this, these are great examples, right? One of my big push for public transportation. So where I work, it's a large area. There's a giant parking lot. Countless cars sitting there for over 8 hours. Over 8 hours because blue collar, we were able to pick up more hours than that. And so when I talk about hating driving and hating, personal transportation and advocating for its eradication and wanting public transportation solely, that's a bad I hate. And I grew up on public transportation, so I'm biased. But that's how much I hate having to drive. You know, some of my union brothers, coworkers would just be like, bro, but you know, you're a troca, you know, you want to do this, you want to do that. And I'm like, bro, we're out in the parking lot. Look around, dog. How wasteful is this? The resources involved in producing a vehicle, to fuel it, to maintain it, for it to sit here for hours upon hours, day after fucking day, when you could be riding top of the line public transportation, be on your fucking phone safely, you know, be doing fucking arts and crafts, whatever you want, take a goddamn nap. Instead of all this, and then these fools do have trocas, you know what I mean? Mamalonas and all that shit. And it's like, how often do you use the bed of your truck? Stop being a fucking tryhard. How often do you use the bed of your truck? We're not construction workers. Chill the fuck out. Oh yeah, I guess you're right, this and that. But when I do need it, how often, motherfucker? How often? It's just really frustrating. Especially being in LA, you know, the culture of LA is very car centric. I guess it's like a cultural shock to people that come from areas of at least decent public transportation. It's horrendous here, man. I grew up on it. I love what it could be. What it is so brutal for the working class people who don't have the funds, you know, to have their own vehicle. It is so unreliable. It is so dirty. It is so inconsistent. It is so underfunded. In terms of safety too, you know, not to be like, oh, crime, this and that. No, like, bro, like, there's so many factors that make you detest public transportation. And it's done on purpose. It's done on purpose. Man, yeah. Okay. Let's get to it. But I will say, when you need the homie with the truck, you know, come on, dog. Like, I'll get you a kawama. We'll get a 12-pack. I'll get you lunch. You know what I mean? No, David Barnes.
I voted for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
Hey, thank you for the super chat. David Barnes, look, I understand liking vehicles, but what I'm saying is, are they a necessity? To me, they're a luxury. And again, because I grew up in public transportation, they're a luxury. Ace, I got the same theory, and not only are the strawmen easy target, it allows liberal grifters to prearrange, excuse me, and limit the extent of leftist discourse. 100%, 100%. Controls the overtime window, allows their fan base, their viewers, to find these ideas ridiculous. Holy shit, it's 3. Okay. We're good. They always make me wait anyway, so it's fine. Homegirl brought up Star Trek. Homegirl brought up Star Trek. God damn, bro. God damn. A Star Trek utopia. Oh yeah. What the fuck? Why is that? Nobody can hear it? Oh shit, my bad, my bad. Yeah, I don't know why it did that. That's weird. It froze. Give me 1 second. Let me go back. Let me go back. Y'all were just seeing me react. That's funny. My bad.
To make these sorts of like within me to like.
And that's it, or like if there's no currency, do you just like go to the Best Buy and just take it off the shelf and that's it, or how does that work?
It's hard to say because you're asking me to like talk about the specifics of like a post-scarce society where not only are resources abundant within society as it is, it's like a matter of like making sure that there's distribution. Like I feel like I'll give you like unsatisfying answers because there is a reason a lot of it remains theoretical, because trying to make these sorts of more like concrete prescriptions of how to like how those more specific things are going to work once like communism is achieved, which again is like literal, I would assume like literally thousands of years off in this like post like Star Trek-esque utopia. I can really only tell you like what I wouldn't be okay with as opposed to what I would. You know what I mean?
Sure, but so like, are there markets in this communism? Are those even a thing?
Yeah, there's always markets.
Okay.
So to answer a question about televisions, she has to run away to talk about Star Trek. To answer a simple question, she's not super correct. What are y'all doing? This is why a cultural revolution is so significant. This is why a cultural revolution has to be so significant. You don't have to start talking about a utopia. You don't have to start talking about Star Trek and sci-fi shit. When he's asking a specific question, what if I want a TV? We have to have a cultural revolution to understand that a lot of these things that we glorify as private luxuries cannot exist in the future because of the finite resources that the planet has. In fact, having these luxury items are a waste of resources that can be used for more functional, even life-saving technologies. Why the fuck do we need 1, 2, X amount of fucking giant TV screens in your house? For what purpose? To waste your fucking time? What are we doing? My answer to this has always been the example I've always used. Why the fuck do you need that? If we're talking about communism, community communes, movie theaters, motherfuckers. The local fucking theater. Why do you need a flat screen TV? You don't need it. There's no reason for you to have that. Do something better with your fucking time. Or if you're craving, you got to scratch that itch. Go to the communal theater. Enjoy a show. Commiserate with the other working class individuals. Talk about it. Problem fucking solved. Why do we need to invest so many fucking finite resources into everyone having a giant flat screen TV? It makes no fucking sense. But because we do not factor in the fact that we're in a finite, a planet with finite resources, you can ask dumbass questions like, what if everybody wants a flat screen TV? You can't fucking have it. You can't fucking have it. Grow the fuck up. Why can't everybody have a golden fucking toilet? I like the way it feels on my ass. When I go to sit down, it's always lukewarm. It never gets cold. I don't know what the properties of gold are. It's as equally ridiculous. And the television is as equally unnecessary. God damn, bro. But we're fucking spoiled. We're fucking spoiled. That's what it is. We're fucking spoiled. And we don't understand that a lot of these, privately held items of luxury should be used to encourage communal spaces, right? If we're talking about televisions, because you want to watch a television show, right? Which is what you want to consume: art, the acting, the writing, the lighting, the boom, 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 all that. So what you're saying is, hey, I want to go consume art. Dope. The way you would go watch a play, the way that you would go watch ballet, the way that you would go to a museum. Those are all communal things, right? Same fucking thing for your TV show, the same fucking thing for your movies. Same fucking approach should be taken. You want to come consume this? Come gather. Come gather around. Is that saying, am I saying, I'm not like ode to John Tadell. I got a TV. Do I need it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Is it worth? I manifesto spoiler. Is it worth the resources that were extracted from the planet to make it? Of course not. Objectively, of course it's not. Especially with the amount of times I fucking use my television.
So like whether the state recognizes it or not, markets exist. They can exist outside of like formal structures.
Okay. So I mean, it just so are you talking about a totally centrally planned economy, or are you talking about like a combination of like market socialism and state capitalism? Like what does that look like? Yeah. If it's not
like
all
movements
centrally
towards
planned.
market socialism would be ideal, where you slowly begin to decommodify workplaces and people have more of a say over the area of their life where they spend. I mean, most people spend like from the age of like even slightly before 18 all the way up until they're like in their 50s, 60s working, and are, even though we like emphasize and underscore the importance of democracy outside of the workplace.
This is why I fucking hate Richard Wolff.
Marx draws attention to the fact that it is important to not disregard the fact that like when you for like 8 hours a day functionally, just so you can live, you are under the boot of your boss that makes largely like unilateral decisions over what you will do for like a
David Barnes. Guess who she's gonna fucking smear and mock?
good portion of your life, and expanding democracy to the workplace is like some of the like best, easiest, and most tangible ways in the short term you could start to bring about like abolishing wage slavery entirely, abolishing private property, and expanding democracy.
What does that mean to abolish wage slavery? What does that mean?
This is why it's a waste of time to interact with him. He knows what it means. He's trying to do a little gotcha. He's fishing for clips. He's fishing for these moments to be like, see, she's evil. She's an authoritarian. Because this fool, when he's not debating, he'll brag about like, oh yeah, I read Marx in college.
How do I put this into words? So like, we technically have a choice to work, right? Like
yeah,
in this, like you don't get like a criminal penalty if you don't get a job, correct?
Sure, yeah.
Right, but what happens if you don't get
Unless you're black. What was it, vagrancy laws?
a job?
You probably end up homeless, or if you're lucky, maybe you have a family member that you can mooch off of, and yeah.
And she's not great at this either. Like I don't know why she's obsessed with not just answering questions directly and having to use examples. I know why. It's the people that she's influenced by. But these examples that she's trying to use, or the talking tree, is just muddying the waters for no good reason.
Correct. But like that, and like that family member is probably a wage slave. That family member probably work so you can do that, and then you're just like, yeah, siphoning off like money from somebody else. Right now, the option is do the thing, and the thing being work for like 8 hours a day or whatever it is, or live a subsistence existence at best if you can find a way to like, you know, coast off of some like government programs, or basically abject poverty and homelessness.
Well, what happens?
So it's not really like a meaningful choice, right? You have to work.
Well, I mean, I assume people would have to work in your system too, right?
Yes, they would, but this would not be coerced through poverty or do the thing. It would be a better thing. It would be a better system.
It'd be a better thing. It'd be a better system. They handpick these people to debate them. And it makes perfect fucking sense that the people that would want to debate them, knowing how disingenuous they are, would talk
I
like
voted
this.
for Kamala Harris. You got a problem?
And Walker, this person is not a communist. I mean, that's just, you know, who are you to tell them what they are and not, you know? Like, oh, no true Scotsman? Oh, what are we doing here? Yeah. She claims to be a communist. She smears MLs pretty soon.
Well, like how? Like, let's say somebody in your system decides, I don't really want to work for like the rest of my life. Like, how would you incentivize that person to contribute to society?
Also, not to read too much into it, but bro, like the smugness. You're a liberal. You're this smug. Just hear when she says it's a better society.
This would not be coerced through poverty or do the thing. It would be a better thing. It would be a better system.
Well, like how? Like, let's say somebody in your system.
This would be a better thing. It'd be a better system. You didn't say anything. You didn't fucking say anything. Oh, my dad can beat up your dad. The same fucking level of insight.
Some decides, I don't really want to work for like the rest of my life. Like, how would you incentivize that person to contribute to society?
Well, I'm going to break this into two parts. For one, every single system, even right now, there are always people that opt not to work, even with how bad it is, like how poor and awful your life will be if you do not work, because again, you'll be subjecting yourself to like homelessness. You'll live in a very precarious situation, opening yourself up to like, you know, substance abuse, like the likelihoods for all of these things, disease, like there's tons of reasons why you shouldn't. Like there will always be people that like opt to do this. And I think in the same way right now, our system has built-in mechanism.
Sorry, that opt not to work or to, sorry, I lost you.
Yeah, that opt not to work, even though it like it's not safe for people really to like not have a job and have secure employment, because that's the thing that enables you to have shelter, food, water, electricity, all of these things like reliably.
Yeah.
And that, so like, it seems like no matter what system, even under capitalism, there will always exist a contingent of the population that will just kind of be like moochers, right? But I think this is like largely, honestly, and this is probably like maybe the most fantastical that I'll sound in this conversation. I think people enjoy working and people enjoy laboring. And to the extent that you saw like this like bum class, I don't think it would be substantially larger than like to the extent that
moochers and bums. Ooh. Sorry. Moochers and bums. I'm like, boo. You could tell there's somebody that grew up fairly well off if you're calling people moochers and bums. Now I could be like, you're a bum rock. But come on. The bum class. Tell me your parents paid for everything.
Like bum class. I don't think it would be substantially larger than like to the extent that basically exists now or in other countries.
I don't know, because I mean, I understand what you mean. I think that human beings crave like a creative outlet, and they do crave a sense of accomplishment. But if you put me in a system where there was like no disincentive to not working, I would probably think about maybe just not working.
Homie, your ancestors were literal slave owners. We know. We fucking know. You were reminiscing about them being slave owners in the Confederacy. We fucking know that if you had the option not to work, that you would fucking take it. It's in your fucking DNA.
No way.
I think there would
I
be
mean,
a
like,
lot.
think
there would
about
be a
this. Think
lot
about
of-
this.
I think there would be a lot of people that would be like, well, I don't know if I want to do that. Why not? I'd rather fucking sleep in or whatever.
No, wait. I acknowledge there will be lots of people. I'm just saying it's not a unique feature to communism like people seem to think it is. It's just a unique thing to like kind of human or like a thing that humanity is going to produce. Like there will always be this sort of class of people that like, yeah, they don't really care. They don't have prospects. But when we look
Bro, what the fuck? How is every streamer just like a rich kid? There's always going to be social parasites. Yeah, they're called the capitalist class. Jesus Christ, bro. You see what I'm saying? They pick and choose the perfect fucking people. And if it comes off like I'm defending or siding with Hutch, I don't know what I can do to further myself from that, but come on.
My strongest rebuttal against this narrative is think about the types of societies like, you know, fellow socialists and communists want to move towards, like a Boy, right? A Boy would probably frequently talk to you guys on Live and Learn about like the Nordic model, right? And what happens in Scandinavia and Denmark or like the
It's a Bernie crap, bro. The Nordic model. God damn, man. Bernie did a number on these fucking people. The moment you turn to the Nordic model for inspiration, just say you're a fucking colonizer that wants to exploit overexploited countries. Just say that. Just say that. Real quick, we'll jump to 5232. Real quick, I got to dip pretty soon. Appreciate y'all for sticking around. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Please hit the like button. Costs you nothing. It would be doing.
But I don't know
this.
why I would ever consider taking a gamble on your system when the current path we're on seems to be pretty good.
We're destroying capitalism is destroying the planet. Well, I'm white and I'm wealthy, so you know it's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I don't know. It's just seems to be working out for me, and I don't know what to tell you. Hold on. I gotta dip out, but there's one last thing that we gotta do. There we go. Should we go back then? Let's just go back. It's coming right up then. Yeah, we'll go back. It was at 32. Just don't know why it's lagging right now. Let me close this out.
long term, like I am the one making the affirmative case for an entirely different economic order than what people know. And I think that people have a rightful skepticism that until they hear like more robust arguments and sort of like prescriptions and plans for what that's going to look like. I think given everything that socialism is currently associated with, which is like despotic regimes, the USSR, fucking Stalin, like all of these things, like that is a healthy skepticism, is one I encourage. And I don't want people to just like take people at their word. Certainly not myself for these things. Like,
did you used to be an ML? Did you used to be more of like a
no, never.
Oh, okay.
No. Always thought that was very, very cringe.
I always thought that was very, very cringe. You're debating with a liberal, bro. You're debating with a liberal. And you draw the line I cringe? Being an ML? Okay.
And I think that like those people, like the way that they treat like the theory is like there's like an unwillingness to acknowledge like that these people like Marx, Lenin, Trotsky, like these figures, like even though some of them made influential contributions to Marxism, they're not prophets. Like there were
what? They're not our Nostradamus? Yeah, ML's notorious for glorifying Trotsky as a prophet.
There were things that they predicted that were wrong, that didn't come to fruition, and it doesn't mean Marxism BTFO'd. Like, you can acknowledge that there were some aspects of their theory are just outdated modes of understanding capital relations in the 21st century, or inadequate, and but the MLs, I just noticed that there is sort of this tendency to take it as a Bible almost, like they think there's kind of only one way to do this. It's dogmatic in a way I don't like.
Yep. We worship the fucking Communist Manifesto. That's capital. We fucking, oh man, we put that shit on a shrine, bro. Definitely dogmatic. Definitely. It's not like we against book worship. Never heard of it. Never heard of it. God damn, bro. God damn. The real opium of the masses is Marxism, Leninism. You know what this tells me? Because supposedly she's like Hispanic or Latina, allegedly. I don't know. I'm not discounting it or anything, but what it is telling me is that she's around a lot of fucking white people. That's what it's telling me. This is, wow.
There's a religious reverence for Marx that I find deeply unsettling. But Marx, when you look at the context through which Marx was witnessing industrialization, and I really cannot stress enough how fucked it was for workers back then. They had no days off, 12-hour days, child labor, no kind of guarantees of safety nothing. It was brutal. And Lenin, in the context of, revolting against the, a brutal monarchy. He had, the revolutionaries at the time had plenty of reason to.
And this is an issue with being in the belly of the beast, especially if you're affluent and white, is that you think that shit disappeared or it's gotten better. So, hey, sooner or later it'll get better, it'll get better. Meanwhile, countless people are dying, being maimed, starving to death. But it's not affecting you and you're not seeing it. So you view it as progress instead of the hiding of that suffering and the normalization of that suffering. There's one last section I want to cover because I hate this kind of push towards, and credit to Chris Hedges. He's somebody that really helped me understand the liberal, the liberal propaganda of the illusion of progress. This part right here.
We have a shortage of doctors and nurses. Meanwhile, look at Cuba, and this is the only aspect of Cuba that I'm praising.
And this is the only aspect of Cuba that I'm praising. She has to be surrounded by white people, bro. They're going through a blockade right now. They've been in a blockade, and Trump has just enhanced it. And she's still the only good thing I have to say about Cuba. This is the only good thing I'll say about them. Oh, that little thing where they provide the world with fucking medical services for free? Yeah.
Meanwhile, look at Cuba, and this is the only aspect of Cuba that I'm praising. They have more doctors per capita than literally any other country. And those doctors are not paid the way that doctors here are paid. They were exporting doctors during COVID to help other countries deal with the pandemic. And you couldn't necessarily say the same for the United States to the same scale as this much smaller country. So that's a small example of, social norms.
No mention of the embargo, the blockades.
And different cultural norms and economies leading to incentives that people just can't really fathom because you don't see them spring up here in the same way.
Well, this is a bit out of my wheelhouse. I don't know a lot about Cuba, and I'm not familiar with the problem of there being a shortage of healthcare workers, but I don't know if you've really engaged in my point though. I don't know if you've actually, you say, well, there's got to be some way to figure it out, it seems like, but I don't know. That seems like
when I asked you a question about how do we redistribute,
the topic at hand was how he was basically saying that it would be necessary for the state that she's advocating for to force people into hard labor. And she's like, yeah, no, I don't know the answer to that. Automation and crazy shortened hours of labor. And again, mixed with that cultural revolution of saying, hey, what we're building here is not for the rich, it's not for the wealthy, it's not for the capitalists, it's not for the few, it's not for the 1%. What we're building and working towards, and why we're doing this hard labor, is for yourself, for your family, for your future generations, for the improvement of the world. And so you have to have a cultural revolution in order to get people to understand that it's not about necessarily you. It's about the human species at large and our responsibility to this planet. And that back-breaking labor will be reduced through automation, meant not to provide profit, but to provide us with more leisure time and to make our hard labor more efficient. And the fact that there is not going to be any, there's no labor shortage here, right? There's not going to be anyone without a job. Everyone's going to be pitching in to the best of their abilities. That's going to reduce the amount of time that you personally had to do this hard, back-breaking labor, so that you're not exerting yourself and killing yourself on the job for capital, right? And it should be part of everyone's responsibility to participate in those jobs that are deemed lesser or inferior. It's that simple. I gotta go. I appreciate y'all. I had to put you through that silliness. We had some fun. Thank you. Y'all made me fucking cry from laughing. The Beast, John Trudell. In a wisp of smoke down in the corner, there was this cat named Fortunate Lee, talking at me from voices in his head, yelling about what Storyteller said. You gotta be careful with your child. There's a beast in the promised land. There's madness you don't understand. The beast is crazed and running wild. Little boy, man, little girl, woman, no big deal. Nothing personal. Your mind's another meal. Savoring the rush of you like heady wine, feeding is what the beast is meant to do. Strange are those walls built to hide, stranger to look and learn not to see. He's in the mask you put on your face. Thoughts, his favorite breeding place. In the race to midnight, it's after 11. The nature of the beast is all he knows. Behind doors of hell are gates of heaven. Doors are open, but the gates are closed. And as Glenn Ford told us, organize with eyes wide open. Ya estuvo.